of fire threatening Fort Providence have been contained. Officials are taking down the sprinklers and water cannons set up to protect the buildings. And today at noon, the evacuation order will be downgraded so people can return home. Some people living near St. John's, Newfoundland, have unsafe water flowing through their taps. They only found out when a local chemistry professor started asking questions. CBC's Jayla Bernstein investigated and discovered contamination may be spreading beyond what the government has mapped.
Memorial University chemistry professor Carl Jobst visits a neighborhood in Torbay. This is where he found forever chemical contamination in people's water. Some of those toxins, also called PFAS, have been linked to serious illnesses, including cancer.
This is essentially industrial wastewater that's being discharged from the airport.
The airport is the site of an old firefighting training area that Transport Canada is responsible for. It confirmed last year that contamination had spread to wells in one nearby subdivision. But Jobst found PFAS in a completely different area downstream. Worried the chemicals could be spreading to wells, he started door knocking.
Not really what I want to be putting in a baby's body.
Haley Hussey-Smart is a new mom, and according to Job's analysis, the levels in her water were within Canadian guidelines, but wouldn't pass in the U.S.
Nobody, government-wise, has really been doing anything.
Jobs found that half of the homes he tested in the area had contaminated water. 4 were unsafe by Canadian standards, and 4 were above American limits. CBC Investigates had independent testing done at some of those same sites, and the results were in line with Job's findings. Transport Canada was alerted in May, but residents CBC spoke with said the department hasn't intervened. It says it takes its responsibilities with respect to PFAS seriously, and it won't comment further because of a proposed class action lawsuit. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Torbay, Newfoundland.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report at cbcnews.ca. One of the most read stories is more details about those 5 big nation-building projects up for approval. That's on our main page. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. Thanks for being with us here on Information Radio. We're live downtown in Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. This is CBC. Thursday morning, September 11th, school day number 2, and Abby just slided me a note here. They've just issued a severe thunderstorm watch for the city of Brandon. So Abby will have our forecast in a moment. We are expecting showers across a lot of places in Manitoba, also in Winnipeg here today too. This hour on the show, we're going to be looking at immigration. Specifically, what are the leading factors that immigrants say keep them in Canada? There's a new study out. It looks at that, and we will talk more about it. In addition, we're going to find out locally here why the Manitoba Theatre for Young People is sending a big thank you to you. What you can expect to see on stage this year. They had a very successful fundraising campaign. And then a little bit later this hour, Ottawa says they're planning on a public registry to keep track of the ways that AI is used in government. So we're going to look at that aspect of artificial intelligence as a series of ongoing conversations continues about AI here on the morning show. All right, Heather Wells is in to build on some of the things we heard on World Report. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, yes, let me do that.
Sorry,
Prime Minister Mark Carney
I know you said you wanted to talk
today is going to announce the first batch of what he calls nation-building projects. Although CBC has learned Carney will not include in this batch upgrades to the Port of Churchill, so we'll be hearing more about that. Also, an investigation into this spring's wildfires near Lynn Lake alleges the fire started at a nearby mining site, as according to search warrant documents obtained by CBC News. Those documents say the fire started in May after a permitted burn pile at the Alamos gold site reignited. We're going to hear more coming up in our next news at 6:30.
Sorry, Heather. I took for granted, I know you were leading with Churchill, and I have a lot of news today, so I took for granted you were starting there. I apologize for that.
It's okay. I can jump back.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heather will be with us through the whole morning. Let's jump back to the forecast now. I mentioned that severe thunderstorm watch has just been issued for Brandon, Abby.
Yeah, we're seeing thick clouds across the province this morning, and a severe thunderstorm watch is now in effect for Brandon. Conditions, as we're seeing on the track, is really favorable for these storms to come our way, and this may be bringing large hail and even heavy rain to the southern part of the province. We're tracking this from the southeast western part of the province into Saskatchewan and heading towards northern Dakota. So some of these thunderstorms may be severe, and we may notice it in this part of the province. But for today, it's more about the clouds getting thick through the day. It's going to bring showers and even some thunderstorms to southern part of the province, while the north is going to stay mostly dry and comfortably warm. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at some clear conditions. Temperature sits at 15 degrees. As the day unfolds, the clouds will spread in, and by late morning into your lunch break hour, a strong chance of showers along with a risk of thunderstorms will roll in. Temperatures will climb to 24, feeling closer to 27 with the humidity factored in this morning. And in the northern part of the province, we're going to see the power Flin Flon warm up to 26 degrees. Thompson will warm up to 24, while Churchill is going to top out at 10 degrees. Winnipeg right now, 15, sunshine on its way, and rain and thunderstorms also coming.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Yeah, that rain is on its way. It just started in Brandon, as we mentioned. Let's get into what's going on with the morning commute, but also what's changed. Corey's here. Heather was just mentioning a fire activity north, and you were looking at the map this morning.
Yeah, it's interesting. I check it now and then, and the fire view map for a long time, all summer really, has always had a bunch of out-of-control fires. But actually now, if you look at the map, there's no longer any out-of-control fires in Manitoba, according to the Manitoba Fire View map. Obviously, still lots of fires going on still, lots being monitored, being held, like the Nopaming fire is still very big, but being held is now its status. So it's a small but significant step, and maybe a sign that hopefully fire season is tapering off.
As far as the commute, because I know that's factored in too, right? During the fire season in full, this is closed, that road's
still
closed.
Lots of Tillin Lake, that area there, highway's still closed. So, yeah.
And in the south here, heard anything?
No, haven't heard of any major issues yet out there. But if you do see something going on, give me a call. Let me know what you're seeing out there. I know, of course, still yesterday there's still a problem, for example, on northbound Kenaston with that water main break that seems to be just kind of bubbling up for forever. Curious if that's still a problem. If you see anything else going on out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right, I just talked about this new study about why people stay in Canada, immigrants specifically. So this is a recent study by the Institute for Canadian Citizenship. And for Canadian immigrants, it's not just jobs and housing. To talk about the new research and what can be learned, George Carruthers is here, Senior Director of Ideas and Insights with the Institute for Canadian Citizenship. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So what does this tell us? What are the other reasons?
So there are two things that stand out. First of all, it's future optimism, hope for the future, but also a sense of belonging. Those are the two strongest factors for newcomers to stay in Canada. And this is important because we've also discovered that 1 in 5 newcomers will leave Canada long term, highly skilled immigrants leaving at the highest rates. And this is critical because, of course, Canada is an aging country. We've got declining birth rates and increasingly reduced immigration levels. And meanwhile, labor shortages in critical sectors like healthcare, construction, these are persisting. So in some of these sectors, we actually need immigrants more than they need us. And that's why, thinking about immigrant retention and finding ways to increase immigrant retention is becoming an increasingly critical part of our future strategy.
How unusual is it for us to have a study like this that looks on those reasons that people stay? Because I feel like we often talk about the reasons people leave.
That's right. We released research a couple of years ago. We continue to update it each year that looking at specifically people leaving and why they're leaving. The primary issues on that side are housing affordability, cost of living, the other economic kind of factors. And I think it's important for us to recognize that, some of these things just can't be solved, nor can they be solved through immigration policy alone, right? These are more protracted challenges that require an all of Canada approach. Now, when we ask the question this way, why are people staying? We get different results that are not just novel. There hasn't been a lot of research in this specific area, but the results are also highly actionable. It points to the fact that we can invest in some of these solutions at a relatively low cost.
I want to talk about one aspect of this report, this study. Francophones are one of the least likely immigrant groups, according to the study, to stay in Canada. How can we do a better job of retaining that group of people?
That's a great point. Francophones are leaving 1 in 3 in the long term, so it's a real challenge. It's also a group that's being prioritized in Canada's immigration approach, and so we really do need to get to the bottom of this. Like I said at the beginning, this is really about investing in programs that build a sense of belonging and build future optimism. So finding ways to connect directly with Francophone communities, be they in Quebec, be they elsewhere, is going to be a critical piece here. And this is about, programs that allow people to say, this is my place. These are my people. Often this means it's a softer kind of program. Being able to encourage immigrants to get involved in social and recreational activities, opportunities to meet other Canadians or other folks in their own language group, right? These are all seemingly very small, but very significant parts of this puzzle for long-term retention. Mm-hmm. So Canada, I think, really does need to take a serious look at this and start investing in programs that can support those feelings of hope, feelings of belonging.
And we have one of the largest, obviously, French-speaking populations here in Manitoba outside of Quebec. Did the study look deeper at the reasons that Francophonies, might be one of the least likely groups to stay? You said 1 in 3, would leave.
So this study doesn't really dive deep into it, but from previous research that we've done on this subject, we know that, for example, Francophones in Quebec, they are leaving, but they are less likely to leave than Francophones that live outside of the province. And so specifically, if we're talking about Francophones in Manitoba, Francophones in Northern Ontario, Francophones, in other parts of the country, those folks are actually leaving at higher levels. And so if we think about this specifically, I think what we see is a bit of a gap in how we treat immigration in this country. Typically, what we focus on are the very immediate needs on arrival. Can you get housing? Can you get a job? Can we do the resume translation? We actually then leave people more or less on their own. And I think what this study points to, and specifically for Francophone communities, is that we actually need to take the longer view. What are we doing to nurture, connection building? What are we doing to support Francophones so that they can meet other Canadians, become engaged in their communities, and feel supported and feel part of those language groups, wherever they may be? That's, I think, what we need to start investing more in.
George, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the chance.
You as well. Thanks for being with us. George Carruthers, Senior Director, and I have Ideas, Insights, and of the Institute for Canadian Citizenship. We reached him in Toronto, Ontario. If you're listening in Manitoba and you are a Francophone, we'd love to hear from you. Why you stayed, if you're a Francophone immigrant to here. Why did you stay? Was it connected to a sense of belonging? And if so, where did you find that in our province? If you want to weigh in with your story, 788-3205.
A French designer sued a Korean fried chicken restaurant by the name of Louis Vuitton Dak. The Rough Riders were often confused with the other Rough Riders. And a Los Angeles band is taking the Houston store Texas Guns N' Roses to court. Hard Days and Golden Nights, the world of brand twins on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly, Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
Time right now is 6:21 a.m. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio. Nice to be back with you in the studio here, but also big thanks to Merchants Corner down on Selkirk Avenue. That was our community studio yesterday as we were live on location learning all about the neighborhood and the work that they do at that not-for-profit education hub. It is clear in Winnipeg this morning in 15, but Brandon with light rain in 14, and just within the last 20 minutes here, a severe thunderstorm watch was issued for the city of Brandon. So we could have some heavy rain and maybe even gusty winds and hail coming with it. So you can always use the commuter line if you want to update anything. Say it gets really crazy out there or stormy. You can call Corey, 788-3093 if you have anything to report or in traffic as well. Well, next, Manitoba Theatre for Young People is sending a big thank you to its supporters. The not-for-profit theatre company and school just finished their Play It Forward fundraising campaign. They ended up meeting and exceeding their $9 million goal. In fact, the campaign turned out to be the largest fundraiser in MTYP's 43-year history. Deborah Zorb is general manager of MTYP and up early to talk about it. Hi there.
Hi, good morning.
It's nice to have a good news story, especially at a time when a lot of arts organizations coming out of COVID, struggling. Why do you think this turned out to be so successful for you and why people stepped up to support MTYP?
Well, I think that MTYP has a really long history here in our city and province, and there's been a lot of generations of people who have been able to experience all the magic that can happen from being a part of that place, whether it's coming to see a show or having taken classes within the school. And we're really, really fortunate to have some fantastic campaign co-chairs in Matt and Jane Johnson, who were able to help us connect with the larger community and share our story about what we were hoping to do, why we were raising this money, and what we wanted to do with it. And just really, really grateful that it turned into a lot of support from a lot of incredible people who I guess agreed with us that those were worthy things to try to accomplish.
So let's revisit some of those. And also, we said that you exceeded your $9 million goal. So how much did you raise and how's it going to be used?
Yeah, so this summer we were really happy to hit the milestone of $9.3 million raised. And the way we're putting it to use, we had three main pillars of the campaign from the get-go. One was MTYP had some legacy debt that had been acquired earlier in the organization's history, and the company had been managing for a number of years, and we really needed to retire that so that we could move forward with our planning and thinking and not be just managing things from the past. So that was a really key pillar of it. And then there's $6.5 million worth of construction improvements, renovations, and retrofits throughout the facility. MTYP is really fortunate to have the first purpose-built facility for theater for young audiences in the country, but it was built back in 1999, and a lot of the infrastructure was still original to that opening day and needed to be repaired and replaced and addressed. And also, too, after 25 years of living in the building, there were some things that we wanted to adjust and update, some accessibility measures that we wanted to kind of bring into 2025 understandings of what accessibility should mean. So there's just been a vast array of different kinds of improvements from infrastructure and capacity building measures. One of the big ones was a complete retrofit of our multi-purpose Richardson Hall into the brand new Richardson Studio Theater, which we hosted our celebration in last night, which was the first public gathering in the new space. And so now we have two performance spaces in the building to be able to use for ourselves and for many of the community groups who share the space with us. So just a lot of exciting improvements happening there. And of course, the third pillar being raising $1 million in capital for an endowed fund that will be housing with the Winnipeg Foundation that will allow us to have annual investments into new play and new production development so we can continue refreshing and renewing the stories that we share with young Manitobans.
Lots going on and lots of individual donors, but also, money coming from the federal level and the provincial level as well, contributing to this. Your new season opens next month. Can you give us a little bit of a highlight of what shows you've chosen for this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Our artistic director, Pablo Felices Lunas, has really put together a beautiful journey for us this season. And our first show of the season actually will be presented in the new Richardson Studio Theater. So we're really excited about that. It's a beautiful play called Gather. And the joy of the new space is it's 100-seat capacity. So there's a variety of more intimate works that Pablo's been itching to present to audiences for years that this space is more suited for. So we're very excited about that. And very close on the heels of that show, which is opening October 3rd when it closes, we're really honored to be welcoming at the end of October and beginning of November Kauai's Dance Theatre, which is a company from Ontario, and they are bringing their seminal production, The Mush Hole, which is a beautiful nonverbal piece that tells the story of the after effects of those who have been subjected to the residential school system, and it's based on the Mohawk Institute, which was nicknamed the Mush Hole due to the food that they serve to the students. And it was actually the last play that we produced in 2020 before the world changed on everybody, and we had to suspend those activities for a while. So we're really excited after this time to invite Santi and her company back and share that incredible moving piece with our audiences again. And then we will be in our holiday slot. We are producing The Lightning Thief, the Percy Jackson musical, and I suspect some of your listeners, family members and young people in their lives will be very familiar with that particular work, a series of books that the musical is based off of. So really looking forward to sharing that kind of energetic musical with our audiences over December.
And always fun to have something like that around the holiday season too.
Yeah. I think it'll be really, really fun energy for families to come out to. And then we have more shows that are happening certainly from January through to May.
I was going to get you to leave us with the website for the rest of the run, Deborah, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just mtyp.ca, and all of the information is there. And we hope people will come out and experience the journey with us this year.
Well, we appreciate having you on early this morning, especially after your celebration yesterday. So special stars to you for getting up and being on CBC with us, Deborah. Thank you and congratulations.
Thanks for having me. Thanks very much.
That is Deborah Zorb with us, the general manager of MTYP, talking about their successful fundraising campaign and, of course, their upcoming seasons. You can check out online more details of all the shows they have planned. Coming up in the next half hour of the program, we are going to be having business news with Hallie Cottonham. That's a regular feature on our program. We are going to hear more about the first major projects that are meant to supercharge the economy. Heather will have a bit of that in the news as well. Also in this half hour of the program, we are looking at the massive manhunt that is still underway this morning in Utah for the suspected shooter of Charlie Kirk. So that's all still ahead on Information Radio here on 89.3 FM. Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 15. It is clear right now, but just wait for it. Those clouds are about to move in. A good chance of showers late this morning and this afternoon, maybe even a thunderstorm. And that wind is going to pick up south 30, gusting to 50. Today's high is 24. Manitoba conservation investigators say this spring's wildfire near Lynn Lake started at the nearby Alamos gold mining site. That's according to search warrant documents obtained by CBC News. The documents say the wildfire started a permitted burn pile reignited on May 7th and grew out of control. Investigators say the company didn't use water to make sure it wouldn't reignite. The fire eventually grew to more than 85,000 hectares. Lynn Lake Mayor Brandon Dolowitz says people from his town still aren't home months later after a second fire in July.
When people come back, I think it's going to hit hard because they'll have the opportunity now. It'll be safe to go out there and see the destruction.
The search warrant is seeking more evidence to see if Alamos Gold broke Manitoba's Wildfires Act. Alamos says all of its permitted fires followed provincial laws. A spokesperson for the province says the investigation is ongoing. The head of Winnipeg's Main Street project says a move to prohibit encampments in some areas doesn't get at the root causes of homelessness. City Council's Community Services Committee unanimously approved a motion this week forbidding homeless camps around certain areas like daycares, playgrounds, and bus shelters. Jamil Mahmoud says what's needed is more housing.
And if we don't have a place for people to go, we can't solve homelessness. And so I like to tell people, if you're frustrated and you're angry, you need to direct that anger at the people that make decisions in terms of where housing funding goes, how to support more housing development, and getting the right people the resources they need to house people directly.
Mahmoud says Main Street Project, which works with people living in encampments, was not consulted on the motion. He says they would like to speak with councillors and the city to discuss community-based solutions that work for everyone. Now, questions have been swirling about the legality of the proposed encampment restrictions. Eric Adams at the University of Alberta suspects Winnipeg's proposed rules would stand up to a charter challenge. He says they haven't tried to ban all homeless encampments, which could be seen as exposing people to a risk of bodily harm.
The city of Winnipeg will say, well, no, we haven't banned people from giving themselves protection, but just in places where those shelters have the kinds of adverse consequences for the community that enables us to limit the rights of people to erect those shelters.
Adams says the issue presents a difficult balancing act for lawmakers to protect the safety and security of the public while respecting the dignity and needs of some of society's most vulnerable. Today in Edmonton, Prime Minister Mark Carney will announce the first batch of what he calls nation-building projects, major energy and infrastructure initiatives he says will spur economic growth and create jobs. CBC has also learned Carney will name additional projects that could be part of the next wave. Among those up for consideration, upgrades to the Port of Churchill in Manitoba. But again, that isn't until round 2. Prayers and candlelight vigils were held in Utah and across the United States last night. Mourners paying tribute to Charlie Kirk. The conservative American commentator was shot yesterday while speaking at a university campus. He was pronounced dead in hospital. Investigators questioned a person of interest afterwards, but they now say the gunman is still at large. Bo Mason is head of Utah's Department of Public Safety.
The possible shooter is taken from closed-circuit TV here on campus. We do have that. We're analyzing it, but it is security camera footage, so you can kind of guess what the quality of that is. But we do know dressed in all dark clothing, but we don't have a much better description other than that.
Kirk was shot while taking questions from an audience member about mass shootings and gun violence in the U.S. You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. The Manitoba Wildlife Federation says it is up to the province to make sure hunters have access to areas which Bloodvein First Nation says are traditional territory. Bloodvein officials plan to turn away licensed moose hunters at a check stop on Highway 304 when the season opens. Chris Heald at the Wildlife Federation argues Crown land should be accessible to all Manitobans.
These hunters have purchased their licenses legally from the province after consultation with all the stakeholders and determined the safe allocation of licenses, and that the hunters should be allowed to go.
The province has issued 175 hunting licenses for the area and estimates 41 moose will be harvested. An area survey shows the moose population there is relatively stable. Natural Resources Minister Ian Bushy has been talking to both sides but did not say what the province will do if hunters are turned away. Manitoba's moose hunting season opens on September 15th. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, Heather Wells, thank you.
Thank you.
Abby Adiemi now with our regional forecast. Where is it raining?
We have rain in Brandon, Marcy, light rain this morning, and we'll see rain on and off for that region. Currently, we're seeing temperatures hover 15, 16 in the Westman region. There's also a slight chance of thunderstorms in play there. That would roll into the afternoon. We'll see temperatures warm to 24, 25 degrees. For Winnipeg right now, 15 degrees, clouds clouds will build through the day. We do have a good chance of showers or even some thunderstorms might come with that. South winds, it's going to get windy at some point. Temperatures will get close to 25 degrees tonight. Stays partly cool with possible showers into the overnight period. In the Pembina Valley region, from Modern all the way down to the U.S. border, we're seeing temperatures near 16 degrees at this time. Also, some clouds will roll in by the midday period. Afternoon showers or thunderstorms, highs are near 25. The Parkland region, Dauphin all the way down to Riding Mountain, we're seeing mild conditions there. It's mostly clear. Clouds will build with a moderate chance of showers this afternoon, and some thunderstorms might be felt in that part of the province. Highs will be near 24 degrees. In the northern part of the province, the powerful influence surrounding areas, we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds for today. Highs near 26. Thompson is partly cloudy with morning showers. That should clear by the afternoon period, and we'll see temperatures warm up to around 25 degrees. Churchill cooler, highs would only get to 10 degrees today with some sunshine peeking through. But the big thing to look out for this morning is the severe thunderstorm watch, which we have in effect for the Westman region, Brandon and surrounding areas. This condition we're looking at may bring strong winds. You may notice some hail and even heavy rain, so brace for that. And that could be spreading to this part of the province because we're tracking it around Brandon and the Melita axis for now. Winnipeg, right now we are currently at 15 degrees.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, what's going on in the commute?
Very quiet commute so far. Haven't heard of any major issues out there, but I'd love to get an update if you do see something going on. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
All right, keeping it simple. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
22 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's go to Hallie Cottenham, who's here with our business news. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So now you're going to start building on something Heather was just mentioning. We've heard on World Report. It is a pretty big day as these first major projects meant to supercharge our economy are formally announced. What details do you have?
Well, our colleague, CBC senior parliamentary reporter Kate McKenna, was given a list from a source, and that list has been confirmed by others. So we know the 5 that made the list. The Containment Terminal Container Project will expand the Port of Montreal. The Darlington New Nuclear Project in the GTA will make small modular reactors. The McIlvena Bay Foreign Copper Mine Project in Saskatchewan, and the expansion of the Red Chris Copper and Gold Mine in northwestern BC. And finally, the 5th, Phase 2 of the LNG Canada in Kitimat, BC, that will double its production of liquefied natural gas meant for markets in Asia. So those are the 5 that made the shortlist.
I know we're on the long list. Every Manitoban leaned in this morning waiting to hear our province named. Additional projects, as Heather mentioned in our local news, that could be part of the next wave. So there's lots of could be, might be's in here. But among those on that longer list in the future are upgrades to the Port of Churchill. So.
Indeed. So the Port of Churchill will get some upgrades in round 2. Other runner-up projects, I guess you could say. A project to build all-weather roads in northern Canada, an Arctic Economic and Security Corridor, the Alberta-based Pathways Plus Carbon Capture Project, the Wind West Atlantic Energy Project, which will support, obviously, wind power in Atlantic Canada, and the Alta high-speed rail corridor between Toronto and Quebec City. So lots of places across the country are going, what about me? So not everyone made that short list, but that long list will bring in more communities.
Yeah, it needs more study. That's the way the government's positioning it as well, that they say those projects need more study.
Yes, for consideration for sure,
Yeah. What about Manitoba in terms of an oil pipeline, though?
Well, there is no talk of a pipeline project in the shortlist, not in this first round. And this is despite the stated wishes of the Prime Minister and, of course, Alberta Premier Daniel Smith. So lots of talk about this. No private company has stepped up to build one, even in partnership with the government. I suspect, Marcy, we're going to hear more about that as people react to both the shortlist and that consideration for the long list.
So what does happen next then? Like what actually do we understand about that?
Well, the Prime Minister will formally announce these projects at 11 a.m. Central in Edmonton. He says the major projects will be, quote, transformative, that they'll create hundreds of thousands of jobs. More importantly, perhaps they'll reduce our reliance on the U.S. and advance climate goals and align with Indigenous priorities. And to that end, yesterday, the government named 11 members of its new Indigenous Peoples Council. They're going to advise the new federal body that's working to fast-track all these projects that we've been discussing. And that list does include Lorne Peltier of the Manitoba Métis Federation.
In other business news, switching gears now away from the big story here, Shopify's chief operating officer, I understand, is leaving.
Yeah, the Canadian e-commerce giant said Kaz Najarian's last day with the company will be tomorrow. Shopify is not saying why he's leaving. It says his responsibilities will be taken over by the remaining executives, including the CEO, Toby Lutke. Shopify provides tools for businesses to run their stores online. They have 5 million customers. Last year, they processed more than $290 billion in transactions. Now, he had been with the company for 6 years, and no details of his severance, but I think he's going to be okay, Marcy, because the Globe and Mail reported that back in 2023, Najarian received $76 million in total compensation.
Yeah, he's probably going to be able to put his feet up for a while. And some important economic data actually is expected out of the United States this morning.
Yeah, it's the Consumer Price Index, which calculates the rate of inflation, tracking the cost of goods and services, including groceries and rent, and in the U.S., medical care. And some economists are predicting the rate of inflation is going to come in at 2.9%. Yesterday's Producer Price Index was 2.6%, which was actually better than a lot of people had predicted. But today's announcement is expected to show that prices are still increasing beyond that target of 2%. Most economists, though, still predicting a quarter-point cut rate in the interest rate next week. And, Marcy, there's odds makers who are saying that there's even a 10% chance the Fed could cut a supersized 0.5 percentage point. So not a lot of people paying any attention to this in the United States yesterday or today, no doubt, but what with all that's going on there. But we'll be tracking that, and we'll get that news out this morning.
All right, Hallie, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Marcy.
That is Hallie Cottonham with our business news. Well, Hallie was just mentioning what with all that's going on in the United States, and one of the things that is going on is the massive manhunt. Let's turn our attention there next on the show. That's still underway this morning in Utah for the suspected shooter of Charlie Kirk. As we've been hearing in the news, the U.S. conservative activist was shot and killed yesterday during an event on a college campus in Utah. Kenneth Gray is a retired FBI special agent and now a distinguished lecturer at the University of New Haven. He teaches classes in criminal investigation and advanced investigative techniques. He spoke with CBC News earlier this morning and was asked if he's surprised that authorities have not yet located the person responsible for the shooting.
No, it's not surprising to me. Really, when you look at what is known at this point, right now what is known is that Charlie Kirk was shot while he was giving this talk during a question and answer period. The shot is believed to have been fired from one of the rooftops on the campus, 200 yards away. A shadowy figure is seen running across the top of the building, but that was not known by police at the time of the shooting. In fact, a person in the crowd allegedly said that he was involved in the shooting, and the focus was on this person in the crowd. And then the FBI joined into the investigation to develop leads and located a potential suspect, but upon interrogation of that person, dismissed them as a suspect. So at this point, little is known as to who the shooter is. That has been shared with the public, and that I expect sometime during the morning that there will be a press conference by the local police and FBI there in Utah to inform the public what is known at this point, and seeking the public's assistance in developing more information. You have to develop witnesses, you have to interview people, you have to review video of, on campus there. There are cameras absolutely everywhere. It takes time to go over that footage. While the early identified footage does not really help identify who the shooter is, it's just a very small image at a distance. Nonetheless, there may be other cameras that have yet to be the footage examined that could in actuality identify the shooter, or people within the building may have seen somebody going in or leaving the building and have yet to be interviewed. They put the I in FBI for investigation, and so it takes time to do investigations. Now, since I've retired, I've noticed the fact that the media here wants answers right now, and sometimes investigations take time to be able to develop information and pursue those leads. We have yet to even know what kind of rifle was likely used to commit this shooting. And so, again, this is very early on in the investigation. you can't conduct a manhunt without having an idea of who the man you are hunting is. And so this is early on. The advantage here is that the Bureau has joined in on the investigation, and they can throw manpower on this. State police would be joining on this also. ATF is like the alcohol, tobacco, firearms will also likely to be part of this. So the number of law enforcement officers will be growing to support this investigation. And the president has promised to put federal resources into this mix. And so as long as they develop leads, they'll be able to run those leads out.
Kenneth Gray, a retired FBI special agent and now a distinguished lecturer at the University of New Haven, in conversation earlier this morning with CBC News, talking about the search that is still underway for the shooter responsible for the death of Charlie Kirk. U.S. authorities say the assailant likely fired from a rooftop. There were about 3,000 people gathered at the event yesterday. And at a news conference, Utah Governor Spencer Cox called the shooting a political assassination.
Our nation is broken. We've had political assassinations recently in Minnesota. We had an attempted assassination on the governor of Pennsylvania. And we had an attempted assassination on a presidential candidate and former president of the United States, and now current president of the United States. Nothing I say can unite us as a country. Nothing I can say right now can fix what is broken. Nothing I can say can bring back Charlie Kirk. Our hearts are broken. We mourn with his wife, his children, his family, his friends. We mourn as a nation. If anyone in the sound of my voice celebrated even a little bit at the news of this shooting, I would beg you to look in the mirror and to see if you can find a better angel in there somewhere. I don't care what his politics are. I care that he was an American. We desperately need our country. We desperately need leaders in our country. But more than the leaders, we just need every single person in this country to think about where we are and where we want to be. To ask ourselves, is this it? Is this what 250 years has wrought on us? I pray that that's not the case. I pray that those who hated what Charlie Kirk stood for will put down their social media and their pens and pray for his family, and that all of us will try to find a way to stop hating our fellow Americans.
That is Utah Governor Spencer Cox speaking yesterday, calling the shooting a political assassination. Of course, the motive is not known or understood at this point. A manhunt is underway. According to a post on X by FBI Director Kash Patel, the person who authorities had in custody as a person of interest in connection with the shooting death has been released. And they're still looking. Classes at the Utah Valley University have been canceled, and the campus today is closed. In fact, going to be closed, as you can imagine, for a number of days at least. It is right now 10 to 7 on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. You're on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for being here. Clear and 15 and calm in Winnipeg. Light rain in Brandon with a severe thunderstorm watch, and rain coming to Winnipeg this afternoon. A risk of a thunderstorm, and it's going to be very windy too. Winds south gusting 30 to 50 and a high today in the city of Winnipeg of 24 degrees. Well, next, we've been doing a series of conversations about AI, focused on how you use it in your daily life, how it comes up in studies and schools. Though the technology may be in its infancy, artificial intelligence is also being woven into the fabric of our lives. And our government's no exception either. To keep track of its growing list of AI projects, Ottawa says it plans to launch a public registry. The aim to prevent duplication and promote transparency. But it does raise questions about how and when governments use AI. And to talk about that, our tech columnist Francis Sims is here. Hi there.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So what do we know already about how AI is used in government?
Well, some reports from researchers across the country say that there's 100 to 200 instances of AI being used in government. Some of the examples that we know about or we think about is CRA using AI to flag high-risk tax returns. That would be no different than like a credit card company using AI to detect, suspicious charges. So that's happening. Immigration Canada, we think, is using AI to help triage visa applications to try to make it more efficient, faster. Agriculture Canada, we think, is using AI and satellite data to predict crop yields, right? Because the thing about looking at satellite images is a human can't really detect 1 or 2 pixels different, but an AI might be able to detect that. So Agriculture Canada is doing that. Fisheries and Ocean is doing that to see if there's debris in the ocean that could cause harm to marine life. And Forestry is using that to predict forest fires, where they might go, where you might want to deploy resources. So it's being used in lots of places, but without this registry, Canadians can't really see that full picture.
It's interesting that you brought up forest fires, because just this morning, Corey was using his human eyes to look at, Corey Funk, my colleague, to look at the wildfire maps. So now I'm thinking about the AI interpretation and specifics.
And the hope there is that if you'd be able to predict where you should send the people to deal with the forest fire before it even happens at that location. So that's the dream with AI.
So advanced, right? Beyond what a human could do, as you said. What is the benefit, though, of having a public registry for the tech?
Well, I think of it like Canadians like a good cup of tea: transparency, efficiency, and accountability. So the transparency piece is, if AI is making a decision about you, or like I say, there's a decision being made about your tax return, you deserve to know if AI is making that decision or a human being is making that decision. That's the transparency piece. Efficiency, if somebody in Winnipeg is developing a chat tool and somebody in Halifax is doing the same thing, well, it's likely with the same big tech firm. So working together prevents duplication, maybe gets better value, maybe you could negotiate a better price, and it might build a better tool. So that's the efficiency piece. And the accountability piece is, if it's on the record, you think departments are going to really test those systems for fairness, bias, and equity, and make sure that they work, because they're going to open themselves up to scrutiny. So that's the hope with this registry, is that it's going to deliver on those 3 things.
And so this announcement's coming just as the government's expected to table their austerity budget, or I should say they're tabling a budget, but they've described it as an austerity budget. So people think that's going to mean cuts potentially, and maybe even public service cuts. What do you think it might mean for jobs in the context of what we're talking about here?
Well, I think Canadians have a reason to be nervous, because as AI has been deployed around the world, CEOs think, how is it going to improve productivity? And what we've unfortunately seen with some companies like Microsoft, who announced that about 3,000 of their entry-level programming jobs might be cut because AI can do that first draft of that coding work. So that can happen. But what we hope is that with the government, they want to improve productivity. But if you call CRA right now, you might be on hold for an hour or 2 hours if you even get in the queue. So what AI could do is that could actually reduce the admin work. It could automate it effectively, the data entry, the triage, and maybe you could connect with an agent within 30 seconds or a minute. And that would actually make you feel better about the government. And so we really hope that the government will focus on retraining and helping officials, interact with the public more, as opposed to cuts. But we really don't know yet. We just have to wait and see.
Where else might we look in the world for examples? We're not the only government looking to integrate AI into transparency and into our government systems.
Yeah, so Europe is a good place to start, as always, for the digital world with Canadians. So Amsterdam and Helsinki have these plain language registries of all AI projects that the government has built in use, and it works well. In Europe, they're going to build this continental-wide database of high-risk AI applications. So think applying for a job. Lots of our young people have a hard time finding a job. They apply for a job, and there's 1,000 people applying within the first 2 or 3 hours. No human on the other end can really filter all those applications, so they use AI. Well, this is a high-risk application because there could be bias, equity issues there. That will be in the registry. In Estonia, they're building this voice assistant where you could potentially sit at your dining room table or kitchen table and apply for your passport or your EI benefits or whatever it is by just talking to it. Or maybe you're making supper and you're talking to it, and you don't have to go down to a kiosk, that requires you to take 2 hours off your workday to do that. So that's a game changer. But we've seen some examples of cautionary tales, like in Australia, they had this robo-debt scandal where 400,000 people were falsely billed because AI made a decision that they owed money, which wasn't true, and then letters were sent out, and it caused an immense amount of stress. So, it can be great, but there are reasons to be concerned, and that human oversight and intervention is always going to be required.
All right. Thanks very much, Francis, for getting ahead of this for us and for your analysis.
Yeah, my pleasure as always.
That is Francis Sims, our tech columnist and an associate dean in the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology at Humber Polytech. Let's have a look briefly at what's going on the morning commute, which is very little actually right now, which is good. It got really busy yesterday. If you're spotting anything, not just in the city of Winnipeg, but wherever your city is, you in Brandon, you in Thompson, you can give us a call, but also on the highways, let us know what conditions are like. Should be pretty straight ahead unless you're having stormy issues. So 788-3093 is where you can reach us on that traffic line. Speaking of storm issues, we'll get into that in the fuller look at the forecast in just a moment. First to Heather Wells, though, in our developing headlines at 3 minutes to 7.
Good morning. Well, upgrades to the Port of Churchill are not included in the first round of infrastructure projects to be announced today in Edmonton. CBC News has learned Prime Minister Mark Carney will announce a first batch of what he calls nation-building projects. CBC has learned Carney will name additional projects for round 2. Among those is proposed upgrades to the Port of Churchill. So we'll hear more on that coming up on World Report at 7. The province isn't saying what it will do if licensed moose hunters are turned back at a check stop set up by Bloodvein First Nation. Bloodvein officials plan to turn away non-Indigenous hunters on Highway 304 when the season opens on Monday. Chris Heald at the Manitoba Wildlife Federation argues Crown land should be accessible to all Manitobans. I'll be back with more Manitoba News at 7:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Well, speaking of the rain and those conditions and these storms here, we do have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Brandon. There's heavy rain there now. There's also light rain that has started up in Thompson, and there's rain on the way for Winnipeg. So Winnipeg's clear in 15. Brandon with that heavy rain, 14 right now. Thompson's 15. In Winnipeg, a 60% chance our showers will begin late this morning. This afternoon, we've got that risk of thunderstorm, heavy wind, and a high of 24 degrees. On the show, in the next hour of Information Radio, a Winnipegger thinks he might have found a piece of history as he was out for a stroll. We're going to hear more about what's behind that story. Also at 10 to 8 this morning, the topic of bail reform has been on our show this week. It's been top of mind for many as well in a couple of cases where we learned that the suspects were out on bail and allegedly committed the crimes that were in the news here in our communities. So we've been looking at how bail is granted, what happens with people, who makes the risk assessment if someone who has previously had an offense is going to be let out on bail. We're going to hear from the top judge in Manitoba, the provincial justice. So that is coming up at 10 to 8. The chief judge of the provincial court here live in studio with us. Stay tuned. That and much more. World Report, though, is next. It's 1 minute to 7.
It's Canada's most prestigious competition for new short fiction. The 2026 CBC Short Story Prize is on. Send in your best original unpublished short fiction. Up for grabs, cash prizes from the Canada Council for the Arts, a 2-week writing residency at the Banff Centre for Arts and Creativity, and your work published on CBC Books. Contest closes November 1st. For rules and more, go to cbcbooks.ca.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. In just a few hours, Prime Minister Mark Carney will announce the first batch of what he calls nation-building projects. For months, he has been saying these energy and infrastructure initiatives are key to building a stronger Canadian economy and becoming able to withstand U.S. tariffs. CBC News has obtained the list of Carney's first projects. Olivia Stefanovic has the exclusive details.
To build that one Canadian economy turbocharged by major nation-building projects that connect our regions.
It's a promise that Prime Minister Mark Carney has been repeating for months, and today he plans to deliver. CBC News has learned the first series of projects that Carney is advancing to the new Major Projects Office for consideration. The information comes from a list shared on the condition of confidentiality. It includes a second phase expansion of LNG Canada's plant in Kitimat, BC. That project would double the production of liquefied natural gas. A new nuclear project in southern Ontario. It would make Canada the first G7 country to have an operational small modular reactor. Developing a new copper and zinc mine in east central Saskatchewan. Expansions to the Port of Montreal and the existing Red Chris copper mine in northwest BC. In addition to the 5 projects announced today, Carney will identify several others that are at an earlier stage of development, including projects of critical minerals, wind power in Atlantic Canada, carbon capture storage in Alberta, an upgrade to the Port of Churchill in northern Manitoba, and the proposed high-speed rail line connecting Toronto to Quebec City. Olivia Stepanovich, CBC News, Edmonton.
Ontario is pushing ahead with a major energy project of its own. It is starting to build a road to the mineral-rich Ring of Fire region in the province's far north. But as Michelle Allen reports, some First Nations are pushing back against the project.
Building the corridor to prosperity.
Ontario Minister of Indigenous Affairs Greg Rickford says the province will spend just under $62 million to build a road to the Ring of Fire. The mining region in northern Ontario is rich in minerals including gold, copper, and nickel. Rickford says the small municipality of Greenstone, northeast of Thunder Bay, will become the gateway to the Ring of Fire. Greenstone Mayor James McPherson says the new road could provide economic opportunities for both the municipality and nearby First Nations.
So this is an exciting time. It's a very exciting day, and we put a lot of work over a number of years into this process, and we're looking forward to it.
The road would connect Webequie First Nation and Martin Falls First Nation to the provincial highway system and to mining activities. They're currently only accessible by air or seasonal ice road. Cornelius Wabas is Webequie's chief.
The potential of mining in our community, that could help us with our vision, because we have to somehow find ways to flourish on that reservation.
But some other nearby First Nations disagree. Chief Gary Quassis of Niskandiga First Nation says many oppose the road being built on their traditional territories.
It's very important to have and protect our lands, because it's our livelihood.
Quassis says Niskandiga and Attawapiskat are building a settlement to block the road into the Ring of Fire. Michelle Allen, CBC News, Thunder Bay.
U.S. President Donald Trump is paying tribute to Charlie Kirk. The conservative activist was fatally shot yesterday during a rally at a Utah university.
Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror.
Kirk was a Trump ally and popular with young people. He had millions of followers on his social media sites. In a video statement released last night, Trump said Kirk's influence will endure.
Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed, because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come.
Police in Utah have been going door to door searching for the shooter. They detained 2 people yesterday, but later released them. Police now say those people were not connected to the shooting. Police are still working to determine what caused a vehicle to crash into a daycare. It happened in Richmond Hill, just north of Toronto, yesterday afternoon. Police say 1 child is dead and 6 others were injured. The driver has been charged with dangerous operation causing death. Idil Musa has more.
As you can imagine, this was a very chaotic scene.
Police say nearly 100 children were inside a daycare when an SUV crashed into the front window.
I can confirm that 7 children, ranging in age from 1.5 to 3 years old, were struck, along with 3 adult staff members. Unfortunately, I'm sad to announce that a 1.5-year-old boy has since been pronounced deceased.
Constable Kevin Nabria with York Regional Police says it's still early in the investigation, but they do not believe the crash was deliberate. A man in his 70s was arrested. The city's mayor, David West, says it's the saddest thing he's ever experienced while on council.
I'm a parent and I'm a citizen of this community, first and foremost, and this is just something that no parent ever wants to deal with, and it doesn't matter how old your kids are. This is something that, that can be related to. This is every parent's worst nightmare.
Police are now appealing to those who may have witnessed or recorded what happened on their dash cam to contact them. They also say support is being offered to victims and to police officers who responded to the crash. Idil Musa, CBC News, Richmond Hill, Ontario.
10,000 full-time support staff at Ontario's publicly funded colleges are now on strike. Their union and the College Employer Council failed to reach a new contract agreement before midnight. The Ontario Public Service Employees Union is demanding better wages, benefits, and job security. It says hundreds of college programs have been cancelled or suspended since the federal government put a cap on international students, and thousands of teachers and staff have been laid off or expect to lose their jobs. Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro could find out today if he is convicted of plotting a coup. He's on trial for allegedly trying to hold on to power after losing Brazil's 2022 election. Bolsonaro's lawyer says he can't predict the future. The ex-president's fate is in the hands of a panel of 5 judges. 2 have already voted to convict Bolsonaro. 1 has voted to acquit. If just 1 more judge convicts him, Bolsonaro could spend 40 years in prison. Qatar's prime minister is calling for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to be brought to justice. He says Israel's strike on Hamas negotiators in Doha has endangered the lives of the remaining hostages in Gaza. The CBC's Sasha Petrusik is in Jerusalem with more on the political fallout and the latest on the ground in Gaza City.
It's a traffic jam along the Gaza coast. Cars, trucks, and donkey carts piled high with worldly possessions. Tens of thousands fleeing a Gaza city under siege from continuing Israeli airstrikes. And the Palestinians on the road overburdened with uncertainty. We can't sleep from the bomb, says Mariam Abu Jarad. We have no food, no homes, no jobs. Israel has promised an all-out ground assault on the most populated city in Gaza at any moment. It's also promising more attacks on countries like Qatar if it continues to host Hamas officials. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
You either expel them or you bring them to justice, because if you don't, we will.
Qatar has shot back. Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani saying Netanyahu is practicing state terrorism, calling Israel a rogue player. Qatar's been supported by Mideast Arab powers Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and others in vowing to retaliate against Israel in some way. Still, Qatar says it will continue playing its role as mediator, trying to find a negotiated end to the Gaza war, though it warns it will be harder and current proposals, including ones from the U.S., may no longer be possible. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
A new Whitney Houston song is out this morning, 13 years after her death.
I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna feel the heat with somebody.
That is the new duet between the late superstar and English singer Callum Scott. He used Houston's original vocal elements to reinterpret this 1987 song. It used to be a pop hit, now it's a ballad.
With somebody. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody. With somebody who loves me.
That is World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
I've been in love and lost my senses.
You know we're playing all that song this half hour. Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on CBC. Sky getting dark here in the city, and in Brandon, a thunderstorm. We are going to get more rain today across parts of southern Manitoba. Thanks for joining us this Thursday, September 11th. By the way, it is school day number 2 as we get through this first full week back at school. Well, this hour on the program, a Winnipegger thinks he might have found a piece of history as he was out for a stroll. We'll find out what that was and what the story is. In addition, we continue talking about bail in this province. And the topic of bail reform has been top of mind for many this week due to a couple of cases involving accused who were out on bail. Many Manitobans want to know how a judge decides risk. What do they look at when they're looking at releasing someone? We're going to have that conversation with the province's chief judge. That's coming up at 7:50. He will be in studio later this hour on Information Radio. So busy hour ahead. Right now, let's get into other stories that are developing today. Here now is Heather Wells.
Good morning. An investigation into this spring's wildfires near Lynn Lake alleges the fire started at a nearby mining site. That's according to search warrant documents obtained by CBC News. The documents say the fire started in May after a permitted burn pile at the Alamos gold site reignited. We'll hear the latest on that. And bans on encampments in other cities have faced constitutional challenges, but a legal expert who spoke to CBC says Winnipeg's proposed bylaw forbidding encampments near playgrounds, bus shelters, and schools would probably stand up in court. Those stories coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right, thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
And now with your CBC forecast, here's Abby. Abby's mic is like, you know, when your chair automatically goes up and down and then it loses? Your mic is like flying up and down right now. So that's the pause and why I'm laughing.
Yeah,
you got it? Did you catch it?
I did. I was like, oh, I'm moving around. Stop it. Oh, well, Marcy, we still have severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Brandon and surrounding areas this morning. Strong winds, large hails expected to come with that. Heavy rains are possible. We're already seeing that heavy rain in the thunderstorm in Brandon as we speak. That may be coming your way on and off for the rest of the day. Across the province, we're seeing clouds building in the south with showers and also thunderstorms possible in a lot of regions down south. Up north, it's just going to stay dry and mild. The south will be feeling sticky at some point. Winnipeg with 15 at this time, heading to a high of 24, and that's the story for the rest of the region.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's get into what's happening on your morning commute with Corey Funk.
Yeah, compared to yesterday, pretty quiet commute overall. But I know there's got to be something going on out there. So if you're out there, you see something, I would love to get some updates. I'm actually curious to see what's happening in front of the Superstore there on northbound Keniston and Grant, to see if you have an update there on that water main break that's been doing its thing for the past couple of days. Other than that, though, if you see something going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, if you're up this morning or maybe you're getting the kids ready for school already, you might be packing the glasses. When did you get your first pair of glasses? Or maybe you're still holding out hope your eyes are going to improve. According to the Manitoba Association of Optometrists, about 80% of how we learn relies on our ability to see. Despite this, the association says 20% of kids go into kindergarten with a vision disorder. While some vision issues are caught early, for some kids, it could be years before their parents realize that they've been struggling with their eyesight. But the association's trying to change that. Now, since 2024, they have this program called I-See, that is E-Y-E, I-See, I Learn. It's been giving children in kindergarten a free pair of glasses. Winnipeg optometrist Nadine Shelton is with the association, and she joins us via Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's so interesting, right, that, something so simple, it would seem simple, that could help with, these big challenges, worrying about your kids are not learning. And if they just had their eyes checked, that this might be solvable. Why might a parent delay having that checkup and getting their child's eyes examined? What are the barriers there?
I think sometimes the parents just don't think about it. There's so many other things to do. Take your kid for their shots, take your kid to their activities, sign them up for soccer, try to get through the website to do swimming lessons. So I think part of it's just maybe they just don't think about it. They just assume that if the child is having a problem, that they will tell them, hey, I can't see. And kids don't know that they're not seeing the right way or how they're supposed to see. So I think That's one thing. And then I think just if the parents don't wear glasses, it's not really on their radar. If the parents have 20/20 vision and don't have the need, it's not something that they will automatically think of.
Has it always been this way, or is poor eyesight, more overlooked now than it used to be in the past?
I think a lot of it's awareness. I mean, if you have people around you saying, go get your kid's eyes checked, you think about it. If there's no one really around saying, oh, hey, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you gone to see this person? I'm sure dentistry has the same issue. Just getting kids out there and putting that into parents' mind. Okay, your kid is 2, 3, 4. When should you go see the optometrist? When should you go get all the health checks done?
Are there barriers that parents might face when trying to access care for their child?
Well, I mean, the Manitoba Health does pay for eye exams for kids up until the age of 19. So usually I recommend my patients come once a year, starting at age 1, and we do a yearly check every year. So that sort of cost barrier is taken away from them, which is great, but you still have to get the child to an optometrist. So maybe it's just accessibility of getting to the clinic. I know now a lot of schools do screenings, or there's eye exams available in schools. So that's helped access eye care for people.
What are some of the signs that people can look for, that might tell you that your child might be struggling with their vision?
Well, obviously, asking the kid, can they see, is the obvious one. But a lot of kids don't. Even if you ask them, can they see, they say yes. And they'll have them try to look at letters or shapes or numbers. And maybe one eye is weak, maybe both eyes are weak. So I think kids just don't know what they're supposed to see. And then whatever they see becomes their normal, and they kind of accept that. So a lot of times, if kids are having trouble seeing, yes, you'll see them squinting, you'll see them turning their head a certain way, sometimes even like lining up the better eye with what they're looking at. And a lot of kids, because they can't tell you that something's wrong, they will just avoid doing certain things. So they'll avoid near work, they'll avoid doing things that are far away. Maybe they'll avoid playing certain sports or certain games because they just can't see enough to participate.
Earlier, I mentioned this I See, I Learn program. Can you tell us a bit about how it works?
Yes, it's a great program. Started about a year ago. We call it First Pair Free. So within your kindergarten year, if your child's in kindergarten, usually they'll turn 5 within their kindergarten year. If they require eye care, most optometrists are signed up to this program. So you would go to your optometrist, you get a free pair of glasses, free lenses. The frames are super cute, lots of colors. If your kid likes, blue as their favorite color or pink, there's lots of options to make them fun and kind of exciting to wear. And the frames are given to us by Modern Optical, and then the lenses are given to us by the Esther Luxottica Foundation. So everything is sponsored, everything is free. It's just you have to get to the optometrist. We do all the paperwork, we do all the hard stuff. You just have to get there, and your kid has to pick out some cute glasses, and then about a week later you pick them up, and we monitor the vision from there.
Were you a kid when you got your first pair?
I was about 11 when I started kind of needing them, and by age 12 I was squinting, and my parents were like, no, you need to wear these all the time. But I was excited. I had these really neat red pair of glasses, and I still, my current red pair, I'm not wearing them today, but is probably one of my favorite ones. So I have this love for red glasses because of that, I think.
And was it your parents, I understood, both wore glasses, so maybe they even were watching your vision along the way. But do you remember, as a kid, this is a hard question, right? But looking back, do you remember feeling my vision's getting worse, or did the doctor catch that before you were even little Nadine and telling them,
Exactly. Well, I was going to my optometrist probably around age 5 or 6 already, so they were monitoring, and because most of my parents are nearsighted, this was just sort of inevitable in their world. So I was about 10, and I think my mom noticed I was squinting a little bit more, and then the test showed, okay, well, she's on the gray area of we could do it, but we could wait. So we waited an extra year, and at that point, yes, it was, I was trying to get closer to the front of the class to see things. They'd say, look across the street, do you see this? And you're squinting to say, oh yeah, I can see it, but you're making these weird faces to achieve that.
That's another good tip, right? Watching in class where your child's going to sit to see the front of the room and
Oh,
learning.
yes.
Yeah.
I'd say there's a lot of teachers that will tell parents, hey, have you had your kids' eyes checked? Because they see your kids at school, they know how they're behaving, they know what they're doing to try and get the work done. So a lot of times it's, oh, so-and-so is going closer to the class, so-and-so is asking their friend, what does that say? So a lot of times it's teachers recommending to parents.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And we'd just like to add, if you are looking for optometrists, the optometrist website, optometrist.mb.ca, will help you find an optometrist, or you can call the office and someone will gladly direct you to eye care to get those eye exams done.
Okay, excellent news. Thank you.
Thanks.
Should say excellent information. But the news on there, by the way, if you do go to optometrist.mb.ca, is that's also where you're going to go and find links to be able to find that I See, I Learn program detail as well we talked about. That's Dr. Nadine Shelton with us on Zoom, Winnipeg optometrist. She's also a member of the Manitoba Association of Optometrists.
Jan Arden, legendary singer-songwriter, captivates her audience in a legendary venue.
Welcome to Massey Hall.
Jan Arden, with an evening of original hit songs and some of her favorite pop covers from her latest album, Mixtape. Jan Arden, CBC Live at Massey Hall. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Thank you.
7:21 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 9:90 a.m. on the app and on YouTube. Well, at the end of World Report, we heard just a snippet of a new tune that is pieced together from an old tune. I love Whitney Houston. I sang all these tunes in the 80s front to back because I love to sing. Ended up being the voice of our wedding song, my husband and I, so it's a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. But we figured you might want to hear it as well. So Callum Scott, who is an English singer-songwriter, has created a duet between him and, of course, the now late superstar Whitney Houston. This is the interpretation that he's put together. He used Houston's original vocal elements to this 1987 hit. This is his ballad version of I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Clock strikes upon the hour and the sun begins to fade. Still enough time to figure out how to chase my blues away. I've done all right up till now. It's the light of day that shows me how. And when the night falls, loneliness calls. Oh, I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody. With somebody who loves me. Oh, I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody. With somebody who loves me.
I've been in love and lost my senses, spinning through the town. Sooner or later the fever ends and I wind up feeling down. I need a man who'll take a chance on a love that burns hot enough to last. So when the night falls, my lonely heart calls. Oh, I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody. With somebody who loves me. Oh, I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna feel the heat. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody. With somebody who loves me. Somebody who loves me. Yeah. Somebody to hold me in his arms. Oh, I need a man who'll take a chance on a love that burns hot enough to last. So when the night falls, my lonely heart calls. Oh, I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody.
Scott Reguer, I feel like that should have always been a ballot now that I'm hearing it like that. Wow.
Pretty tune.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's reimagined. Just hearing it today, Whitney Houston, of course, her voice isolated there, the late Whitney Houston with Callum Scott reinterpreting the tune. He's an English singer. Amazing.
Yeah. Very nice combo.
Woof. Man, could she sing.
Powerful stuff. Yeah.
Let's get into sports and some serious stuff here. It is not unexpected, but the Bombers will now have said they're going to be without Zach Collaros when they face Hamilton tomorrow.
Right. Collaros, Marcy, as many of our listeners will know by now, suffered a hit to the head during the Banjo Bowl last weekend. It wasn't the most egregious hit we've ever seen, but CJ Rivas' contact with Collaros' helmet was enough to see him leave that game early, and now we've learned exclude him from involvement tomorrow against the Ticats. Chris Strevler will get the nod instead. Collaros, of course, Marcy, has a history of concussions, and that prompted former Bomber and now TSN commentator Milt Stegall to say he should retire if he's been diagnosed with a concussion again. Hearing that, Bombers coach Mike O'Shea called Stegall's comments cavalier and said Stegall does not have the medical intel necessary to make such statements. Stegall, on his podcast yesterday, took time to shed more light on why he said what he did, saying it stems from 2005 when he suffered a concussion and his wife gave him a certain look.
She looked at me and there was something different. It wasn't the same look she gave me after a game where I would get up after taking those hits. And I saw that and I said, I don't ever want to have that look in my wife's face again. And when I saw Zach, that's what I thought about. This wasn't a spur of the moment type thing. The last few times I've saw Zach on the field, I thought about Zach, but I thought about his wife. Does she have that same feeling that my wife had when I suffered my concussion?
There you are. Milt Stegall shedding more light on what he said that Zach Collaros should retire if indeed he has been concussed again. We don't know. They're calling it a head injury, not saying any more than that, the Bombers. So Hamilton tomorrow night, lots going on behind the scenes, obviously. And another big storyline there, Kenny Lawler. The Bombers will face the great receiver having a great season for the first time since he left as a free agent.
Let's go to baseball. The Jays mounted another comeback last night. Did not, though, end the way that they wanted.
No, for a while, Marcy, everything was going according to script. Andres Jimenez and Nathan Lucas hit eighth-inning singles that tied things up with Houston. But an inning later, Yanier Diaz had a home run off of Jeff Hoffman that ultimately decided things. It was the 15th homer of the season already off of Hoffman, who unfortunately leads the majors in that particular category. Manager John Schneider, not for the first time, was asked if he's worried about it.
I feel like a broken record. I mean, it's just one bad pitch, you know. I feel like they kind of go hand in hand, you know, with Hoff. The home runs are obviously going to hurt you, but I think the difference between when he's really good and when he has a rough outing, that's kind of it. You know, it's kind of just the damage right there. So he's got good stuff. You know, still trust him. He's been throwing the ball really well, and it was one bad pitch tonight.
Fortunately for the Jays, the Yankees and Red Sox both lost as well, so they still have a 3-game lead atop their division.
And let's end on hockey. Canada's Prime Minister has been discussing hockey, right?
Yeah, Mark Carney, ahead of a Liberal caucus meeting in Edmonton, Marcy, knew his audience. Edmontonians, of course, have been fretting about the fact Connor McDavid, the world's best player, has not yet signed a contract extension, and so...
And let's face it, we are in a crisis. The global trading system has been upended. Supply chains have been destroyed. McDavid is unsigned. And it's in times like these you have to draw back in. Remember what you have. Draisaitl, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, and Connor, if there's anything that we can do in the upcoming budget. We're spending less, we're going to invest more, so we can bring that cup back to Canada.
Money not expected to be a problem. Very clever, as we've seen from the Prime Minister before. But money's not going to be a problem re-signing McDavid. It's all about winning for him. He wants to play his next contract with the team that gives him the best shot at a cup. Not sure what the Prime Minister can do about that, though.
Maybe not much. All right. Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
Scott Reguer with Morning Sports. Your news is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, we're clouding over. It is 15 degrees right now, a high of 24, and a good chance we'll see showers late this morning and this afternoon, maybe even a thunderstorm. Becoming windy, south 30 gusting to 50. Today's high is 24. An investigation into this spring's wildfires near Lynn Lake alleges the fire started at a nearby mining site. That's according to search warrant documents obtained by CBC News. The documents say the fire started in May after a permitted burn pile at the Alamos Gold site reignited. Provincial investigators say it happened because no water was used to make sure that fire was fully out. The search warrant is seeking more evidence to see if Alamos Gold broke Manitoba's Wildfires Act. Lynn Lake Mayor Brandon Dulowich says it's hard news to hear.
It's a tough pill to swallow knowing that it's not something that just spontaneously happened. It was something that you would think we should have had control over.
Alamos Gold says all of its permitted fires followed provincial laws. A spokesperson for the province says the investigation is ongoing. Prohibiting encampments in certain areas won't address root causes of homelessness. That is according to the executive director at the Main Street Project, Jamil Mahmoud. Winnipeg City Council's Community Services Committee unanimously approved a motion earlier this week. It would forbid encampments near certain areas like playgrounds, bus shelters, and schools. Mahmoud says he understands people's frustrations around the camps, but says this isn't the answer.
We'd much rather have a conversation with council and community about what are you trying to address? Are you trying to address people in medical distress or psychosis in public spaces? Because that's maybe we need a mental health response to that versus an enforcement response.
Mahmoud says more housing is what's needed to reduce the number of encampments. The motion goes to Council's Executive Policy Committee next. Meanwhile, bans on encampments in other cities have faced constitutional challenges. But a legal expert who spoke to CBC says Winnipeg's proposed bylaw would probably stand up in court. Eric Adams at the University of Alberta says outright bans can be construed as endangering people's lives by preventing them from finding shelter.
The city of Winnipeg is going to say we haven't done that. We haven't taken away people's abilities to protect themselves totally. And now the individuals in encampments are going to have to make a more difficult argument that, well, there's a fundamental right to place this encampment here, in this particular place.
A spokesperson for Mayor Scott Gillingham says the city's legal team was consulted when the bylaw was drafted. Mark Carney calls them nation-building projects. They are energy and infrastructure initiatives the Prime Minister and the provinces all say will help Canada move away from its economic reliance on the United States. CBC News has obtained a list of the first 5 projects the government is rolling out today. Not included in this first rollout are upgrades to the Port of Churchill. The project is on a list for consideration in the second round. Well, the search continues in Utah for the gunman responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk. The 31-year-old controversial commentator was shot and killed on the grounds of a college campus in what the governor of Utah is calling a political assassination. Police believe the shooter fired from a roof and escaped in the chaos that followed. Kirk was a popular conservative podcaster and ally of President Donald Trump.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has issued a statement on the shooting saying there is no justification for political violence and every act of it threatens democracy. You can hear more on this story and the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. The province isn't saying what it will do if licensed moose hunters are turned back at a check stop set up by Bloodvein First Nation. Bloodvein leaders plan to turn away non-Indigenous hunters on Highway 304 when the season opens on Monday. Chris Heald at the Manitoba Wildlife Federation argues Crown land should be accessible to all Manitobans. He has some advice for the 175 people who have licenses to hunt moose in that area.
If you are turned away illegally at this check stop, then to contact Bloodvein RCMP and the Premier's office and air your concerns. So we do feel that this is a legal matter. We have contacted the RCMP, written them, and the Justice Minister.
The province says an aerial survey shows the moose population near Blood Vein is relatively stable. It estimates about 41 moose will be harvested this fall. Natural Resources Minister Ian Bushy has been talking to both sides in this hunting dispute. You can find more news as it's updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Well, before we turn our attention to your regional forecast and the rain out there, I just want to ask Corey about, because this is reflective of September. Everyone's kind of like, okay, back at it. You had something happen to you this morning that is just so human.
Yeah, I was leaving. It was like 4:30 in the morning, and I was getting my bike. I take it out the back door, and usually I take out my keys to lock the back door. But instead, I pulled out my wallet where I keep my key card, and I took the key card out, and I was tapping it on the on the knob.
At home.
Tired of being like, why am I not hearing a beep? And then because that's not how it works. I need a key to turn. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's funny because I do this shift a lot, but something about that September shift where just things always feel a little bit busier. You just feel a little more tired because there's a bit more of a hustle to it.
Yeah, you can hear me and Abby chuckling along.
Yeah,
here.
you can't keep up. I'm sure I wasn't the only one this morning who did something like that. Who put like the coffee pot in the fridge or something like that. It's that season.
Totally is.
Yeah.
Well, while we have you on mic here, actually, do we have much in the commute to report?
A couple of things I will say. So I did get one update. So on the northbound Kensington there outside the Superstore, I got a call from Vinny who said, so now that there's no more water from that water main break. But
That'd been
the
like
two
24
lanes,
hours, so we want to check.
Yeah, so the two lanes, though, they kind of move into the turn lane for a second and they come back. So it's kind of a bit of a bottleneck there still, but it's still, there's movement there. Also an update from Jason Carter with a heads up, actually. He was biking across the Omens Creek Bridge, and actually there's a heads up there now that's actually going to be closing for about 4 days starting September 15th and 19th for repairs. So if that's part of your commute, which it is for a lot of people, Omens Creek Bridge will be closed from September 15th and 19th for repairs.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
And now Abby Adiemi talking about our forecast here.
Yeah, we still have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Brandon and nearby areas this morning. Strong winds expected, large hails might come and heavy rain possible. Brandon already saw the first phase of the heavy rain, and that should be on and off for the rest of the day. Across the province, the southern regions will actually feel warm and humid with clouds already building and showers or thunderstorms possible, while the north is staying mostly dry and mild. Winnipeg, 15 at this time, cloudy skies, the sun peeking through. We warm up to 24, and looking at the numbers across board, we're seeing 14, 15s, even all the way to the northern part of the province with highs between 23 and 25. So it's going to be more like the rain in the forecast for the south, and it's going to stay warm and dry for the northern part of the province. Some rain will be spotted here and there also.
Yeah, we got a little bit of rain spotted in Thompson already with it's just light rain, and you're right, it's not in their forecast really in a big way. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
That's Abby Adiemi this morning. Your mic is making me laugh. It's flying up and down. All right, let's get to another story here. This is a good one. If you're out for a morning walk, you're going to want to lean in. Sean Dole may not be a geologist, but he's very passionate about rocks. Now, whether it's a piece of flint or chuck granite, he loves taking his walks along the riverbanks, and he discovers new finds. But now he might have found something even more unique, which could be a lot more than just a rock. And it's over 500 years old, possibly. CBC Manitoba community reporter Shanley Vidal took a stroll with him along the Assiniboine to the spot where he thinks he's made a find that could be a potential piece of history.
This is definitely flint. This is pretty common in this area. It's a pretty design.
Sean Dole often walks along the Assiniboine River in Winnipeg and is always on the lookout for unique rocks.
It's interesting to take these things home and do some research and see what you can find and come up with. Found it right here.
On a recent riverbank stroll, Dole found something surprising to add to his collection.
First thoughts, I thought it was pottery, broken glass. Take it home and I Google lensed it or searched it and found something remotely similar to what I found, and it happens to be a bison tooth that's fossilized, and it could be possibly during the last ice age, or close to maybe 500 years, maybe 10,000. I don't know. It's kind of like a petrified rock, or wood, I should say. There's some weight to it. There is some indication of enamel But everything is kind of like this bluish grayish tint, which caught my eye, but has all the looks about being an ancient artifact.
Prior to the 1800s, there were around 50 to 60 million bison on the prairies.
Sabrina Janke is with Fort White Alive, where a captive herd of more than 50 plains bison reside. Bison in Manitoba were seasonal migrators, trekking north to the Parkland region in winter. Janke says it's very possible this could be the real thing.
It's not surprising that they would be near water in general. They have to cross through the rivers that crisscross Manitoba to get anywhere, so they can run through them. They're quite heavy and tall and fast.
Finding a fossilized bison bone in Winnipeg is definitely possible, especially along a riverbank, according to Janke.
I feel like riverbanks are often a great spot to find artifacts, especially in years where the water is lower. Something about the muddy conditions lead to better preservation of old artifacts like that, and it makes sense that there's going to be stuff in that area that will wash up as shorelines erode, as rivers move, and as stuff in the dirt kicks up. It wouldn't be the first or the last time, I suspect, we hear of this.
Sean Dole says he's reached out to the Manitoba Museum for help with correctly identifying this possible bison tooth. However, it might take some time before the item is assessed.
It could be a bison, a deer, or a horse. I don't want to sound silly, but you can almost feel the energy of it almost. You can tell that it was a living creature that either was hunted or maybe stuck in the mud, or it's quite cool.
Shanley Vidal, CBC News, Winnipeg.
So that is our community reporter, Shanley Vidal, out with Sean Dole, and he talking to her about this find that he made along the shores of the Assiniboine River. By the way, Sean Dole says that he plans to hold on to that bison tooth no matter what it turns out to be. I also want to note that that item was filmed and edited, in case you were watching it on our YouTube stream, by CBC Current Affairs videographer Jason Hempson.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca. We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes our world. Staying on top of stories around the globe. And connected close to home. It's news you can trust. Delivered when you want and where you want. On Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1. Local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
Time right now is 7:44 on Information Radio on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks so much for joining us here on the show on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube if you're watching there. If you are, you've seen the sky that's starting to get dark here in Winnipeg. The rain's coming. It started in Brandon already. Heavy rain, thunderstorm in progress there. There's a severe thunderstorm watch that got issued right around 6 o'clock when we were getting to air. It's 14 in Brandon, 15 in Winnipeg, expecting rain. And light rain up in Thompson as well, though that should clear up a little bit for the rest of your day, as we've been mentioning. If you need us on the morning commute, 788-3093, and here on the show after 8 o'clock, I just want to look ahead here. We have a really interesting story. Home builders in Manitoba say they're tired of having their construction materials stolen. We're going to find out what some builders are saying about why they think it's happening, what's being stolen, and also how the increase in thefts is impacting home prices. And so that's all coming up in a conversation after 8. But right now, we turn our attention to a series of conversations that we have already been engaged in on the show and in our province about bail reform. It's been a hot-button topic in Manitoba specifically this week, and we've been building on what we understand about the system. So we learned that the alleged killer in Hollow Water was out on bail after being charged with an assault with a weapon. And then 2 of the 4 teens who allegedly committed an armed robbery at the Walmart in Winnipeg at Unicity last week were out on bail as well. On Tuesday, PC leader Abi Khan stood beside the parents of a young woman killed by an alleged drunk driver after the accused walked out of a treatment facility while on bail. So our question is, what does an official consider when deciding whether to grant an accused offender bail? How is that risk assessed. Ryan Ralston is the chief judge of the Manitoba Provincial Court. He oversees judges who make these kinds of decisions. I'm pleased to say he joins us in studio this morning with our ongoing conversations. And to be clear, he cannot comment on specific cases. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
This is obviously just, in Manitoba a conversation, but across the country a conversation. I want to first get to who makes the decision, because I understand actually it's not always a judge deciding who gets bail in the province. Who else decides?
Okay, well, let me just start by talking a little bit about, I'll give you a little bit more context about how big of a job bail is. On an annual basis in Manitoba, the police are laying roughly about 40,000 charges against various people across the province. So most of those people are getting bail. And in fact, most of those people get through their whole process without breaching their bail conditions and having charges laid against them. So it is a big daily task. Judges are not the only ones who make bail decisions routinely on a daily basis. Police release people on bail. Then the next sort of step is that Crown attorneys will review files. They'll authorize release on bail. Some of those authorizations are given to the police who release the alleged offender. Other ones end up in a bail court before a judge for a consent release, but the judge is not involved in the decision-making processes to bail. So the judges are actually the third step in the process, and that's where we consider bail.
Is everyone along that process equipped the same way to assess the risk and make that decision? Because I think some Manitobans might be, not understand that the system actually, it's not always someone in front of a judge that makes that decision.
Well, we're certainly all applying the same law, if that's what you're asking. So in that respect, they are. I mean, we trust the police to do their job, and they're certainly trained and well aware of the bail provisions of the Criminal Code, and as are the Crown attorneys. So I would say that by the time cases get to us, they're usually more complex in terms of the legal decisions being made, and usually there are defense counsel involved that are putting together bail plans that are to be considered by the judge.
If there's 40,000 cases in a year, I think 40,000 charges rather.
Yeah, plus, yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Do we know how many do we know the numbers on repeat offenders, like somebody who is out on bail and would repeat offend?
Well, I mean, I don't have those numbers at my fingertips. Certainly, there are people who are repeat offenders in there, and there's certainly many people who are before the courts for the first time.
So let's get to the assessment of risk. What is a judge considering when deciding whether to grant or to deny bail?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to just take a step back and remember that we're dealing with a pretrial process. So we're in a zone where people have not been tried before a court. So we have to start with the presumption of innocence. Anybody who's charged with a criminal act in Canada is presumed innocent, and that presumption of innocence follows them all the way through until a judge or a jury finds otherwise after consideration of all the facts. One of the difficulties, of course, in the early going is often the police haven't completed a full investigation, and that's not their fault. It's a long process, and therefore the Crown, the defense, and the judge don't necessarily have all of the details when it comes to that early consideration. Now, the presumption of innocence, of course, is crucial because it leads to another constitutional right, and that's the right to bail. So it is a constitutionally enshrined right in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And along with that, there's something that we refer to as a presumption of release. So generally speaking, the idea is that we're presuming that we're going to release an alleged offender unless there's a good reason not to.
Can I ask sort of around, because some of the proposed changes when people are talking about this in the country to bail reform is around that presumption of innocence, which would be the fundamental thing that would have to change. Because the proposal is that for some that are calling for the reforms, one of the ideas is that the onus would go on if it's a repeat offender that has previously been accused and they're in front of then someone saying that they would have to prove why effectively that they are eligible for bail. They would have to show why that would be something
Right.
that they should get. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let's just not confuse a presumption of innocence with a reverse onus and the onus of proof in terms of
Please explain.
determining
Yep.
who should be out on bail, because the presumption of innocence is a fundamental aspect. And I
Yes.
think we don't want to go there as far as presuming anyone's not innocent in this process. It would be a fundamental change. However, the criminal code already has provisions that flip the onus onto an alleged offender to show cause why they should be released. And there's a myriad and frankly growing numbers of areas, discrete areas that it's on the offender to show cause why they should be released. So that's a part of already the daily bailiwick of the lawyers and the police officers and the judges in considering bail.
What are some of the factors that might influence a judge to release a violent or a repeat offender? Like, are you looking for, and forgive my ignorance, not a judge, never been a lawyer, but are you looking for remorse, rehabilitation, resources? Are you looking for some sort of change? Like, what are the things you're actually looking for in the human being that's before you?
Well, okay, so that's a good question. It's at this stage again, we're at a pretrial stage. So the criminal code has three sections or three subsections that deal with what a judge has to consider. So I'll quickly go through them and we can talk a little bit about the nuances of them. So the first one is called the primary ground, and that's a consideration of whether we think the person's going to come back to face their charges. So pretty straight up section, is this person somebody who has ties to the community, for example? So if there's somebody who may not be from the country, for example, they're just here visiting and they were to commit a criminal offense, then you might have concerns that they're going to, go back to their home and never come back to face the charges. So that's number one. Number two is whether detention is necessary for the protection of the public, including, of course, victims, witnesses in the case, having regard to all the circumstances, including any substantial likelihood that the accused would commit an offense while on bail or interfere with the administration of justice. The secondary ground. So the secondary ground is probably the most commonly relied upon section. It's really an assessment. We're doing a risk assessment about whether there's a substantial likelihood that this person is going to commit an offense. And part of that has to then go to whether or not there are conditions that can address those concerns. So I'll come back to that in a moment,
please.
but I want to talk about the tertiary ground because that's the third ground that judges and police and crowns can think about. And that's whether detention is necessary to maintain competence in the administration of justice. So that involves a consideration of things like the strength of the Crown's case, the gravity of the offense, the circumstances surrounding the commission of the offense, and that would include things like whether a firearm has been used or allegedly used, and then the potential for a lengthy term of imprisonment. So again, that's another sort of a bigger consideration that goes to the risk, but also takes into account what the allegations are, whether there's a strong case against the accused.
I want to go back to the danger to the public, that second pillar, only because I think that maybe the average person might think, well, if you have had two previous offenses, and let's just take this is an example that is not a real case, but you've been you've had charged with armed robbery twice before, you breached bail, now you're accused of an armed robbery,
right?
And you're in front of you're in this process. It would seem logical that would then be, let's say there's been two prior convictions, that would make sense that would be a higher risk to reoffend. But do you have to look at that case in its isolation? Can you consider the previous charges?
You can consider them. You can consider an alleged offender's criminal record for sure, and we do on a regular basis in bail court. We also have to consider other things though as well, and you look to things like the strength of the Crown's case. What is the case against this person at this stage in the proceedings? And oftentimes you'll hear lawyers argue about there is a history here, but in this case, it's not a strong case. It's an identification case, and they may have the wrong person here, so that has to be factored in. The big other component to this that we haven't really talked about is what is the plan for release. So, leaving aside your example, but maybe focusing on something that's a little more simple. If we have somebody who has, let's say, substance abuse issues, their offending in the past seems to be tied to substance abuse. The allegations seem to be related to substance abuse. Logically speaking, if we can ensure that that person is not using substances, then there's no reason why they can't be in the community, as long as they can stay sober. Now, that's a very complex issue. Again, many people are released on bail on a daily basis. Many of them have substance abuse, mental health issues. Many of them need support. In fact, most of them need some supports. And it's really about whether or not there is a viable plan that offers the support that they need and can contain them in their environment to make sure that they're not falling off the rails.
There's levels of bail reform that could be possible. There's sweeping reforms, but then we've talked about assessing risk. And if you have someone that's, committed, maybe they've been shoplifting twice and then now, that would mean that everybody then is not going to be, getting bail. The risk will be assessed differently. But then there's also sort of levels where people think about, the most violent offenders, which we talked about earlier. Is there room for the system to change, in your view, around improving the bail system in this country around those that are violent repeat offenders?
Well, that's a tough question. Let me just say that it's difficult to envision a world where bail is not a part of the system. It's got to be part of the system. When somebody's put in pretrial detention, you can see very quickly that their life is put into chaos. If they have a job, that job's probably gone. In many cases, if they have a home, that home may well be gone. And this is for somebody who's presumed innocent. And you have to remember that there are people who are charged with offenses who are found not guilty of crimes down the road. The time that people spend in pretrial detention isn't something that is in any way returnable to them, especially when they've suffered some of those consequences. So I think that we have to be mindful of that when we look at bail reform. And that's not to say that there isn't, certainly room. And many amendments have been made that focus on some of those violent offenders. And as you open up the criminal code, those provisions are changing on a daily basis. So I think that, could they make more reforms? I'm sure they're probably going to try. And, the lawyers, the judges, the police officers will certainly, follow the law as it is.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning and weighing in on a series of conversations. We really appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
In studio live with us, that is Judge Ryan Ralston, the Chief Judge of the Provincial Court here in Manitoba. Heather Wells is here with news headlines.
Good morning. Well, Lynn Lake's mayor says it's hard news to hear. An investigation into this spring's wildfires near Lynn Lake alleges the fire started at a nearby mining site. That's according to search warrant documents obtained by CBC News. The documents say the fire started after a permitted burn pile at the Alamos Gold site reignited. Upgrades to the Port of Churchill are not included in the first round of infrastructure projects to be announced today in Edmonton. Prime Minister Mark Carney will announce those first projects, which he calls nation-building projects, today. You can hear more on that coming up on World Report at 8 and more Manitoba News at 8:30.
Michael called the commuter line. He says police have blocked off St. Anne's Road both ways from Poplarwood to Portland. We're not sure what's going on. He saw Hydro crews on site doing repairs. Hydro's reporting power outages, as we've been saying here, in the neighborhoods along St. Anne's Road between Fermor and Abenogi-Miikanaw. We have no word on how many customers are impacted or when that might be repaired. There's also a motor vehicle collision between Broadway and Edmonton. An emergency crews are blocking westbound median lanes approaching that intersection. So busy ahead of 8.
On cue. Walk until there's only one of you left.
I'm Talia Schlenger in for Tom Power. For decades, Stephen King fans have been clamoring for a movie version of his novella, The Long Walk. You'll hear from director Francis Lawrence about bringing that iconic story to the screen and finding strange hope in a pretty bleak tale.
Q this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Prime Minister Mark Carney calls them nation-building projects, new energy and infrastructure initiatives he says are essential to Canada's future. Carney's government has already passed legislation to get them approved quickly, and today he's set to announce the first 5 projects. CBC News has obtained the details, and Janice McGregor is in our parliamentary bureau to walk us through them. Janice, what is standing out to you about these first 5 projects?
When you go down the list, Marcia, there's evidence of trying to give something to everyone around the Premier's table. Heading off, maybe, sore feelings or sour grapes, one region pitted against another at a time when the Liberals really need everyone still pulling together. And so we have not just 1 or 2 priorities, but 5 projects deemed ready to go and a further half dozen priorities the government wants hurried along. From LNG expansion in the west to wind energy in the east with port expansions, critical minerals mining and high-speed rail in between. That range may be why Alberta Premier Daniel Smith sounded more determined than dejected when an oil pipeline didn't make the first cut.
We have been assured that there is pathways to get projects on the list as they become ready to be on the list.
Well, this list does enable more fossil fuel development like carbon capture and storage projects. It also fast-tracks projects key to more electrification, like innovating with small modular reactors at the Ontario Darlington nuclear facility. Before there was a list, it was easier to keep a range of political voices on board, hopeful their priorities would get picked. The political peril for Mark Carney's government is that you can't make progress until you pick your priorities, and it is tough to please everyone.
Things were very tense when the Prime Minister met with Indigenous leaders this summer to discuss his new approach to building these projects. Yesterday, he announced a new Indigenous Advisory Council. How does that affect the dynamic?
This is an advisory group, literally there to give advice. Consent for something on First Nations territory has to be sought from the Indigenous people directly affected. Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Gulmasti says this group is not there to rubber stamp what the government wants.
Really takes all perspectives. It takes those that are going to be supportive of the process and those that are going to question it. It really allows for a thorough review.
And so while there are Indigenous leaders known to be pro-development, there are others who are more skeptical. Notably, though, it does not include, for example, the Manitoba chiefs who walked out on the meetings with the Prime Minister this summer over the Liberals' fast-track law.
All right. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor reporting from Ottawa. In the United States, people across the political spectrum are offering condolences to the family of Charlie Kirk. Mourners sing at a vigil overnight in Arizona. The conservative activist and ally of Donald Trump was shot and killed yesterday at a university rally. Now police in Orem, Utah are going door to door searching for the shooter. Steve Futterman is there.
Authorities here are looking for a killer. It's a massive search involving state, federal, and local jurisdictions. Bo Mason is with the Utah Department of Public Safety.
We're working in unison with the county sheriff's office, the local police department, and the university police department.
For a while yesterday, law enforcement officials thought they might have the gunman. But after intense questioning, the person was released.
I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox at one point spoke directly to the person or persons responsible.
To whoever did this, we will find you. We will try you.
The city is still trying to come to grips with what took place here. This woman was an eyewitness.
And I thought, no, that nobody's shooting firecrackers, right? This is the middle of the day.
Last night, many were making a pilgrimage of sorts to the school, including this man.
It's shocking, to be honest. I would not have expected this at all.
All classes have been canceled for at least the next few days. President Trump has ordered flags to fly at half-mast. On social media, he paid tribute to Kirk, who over the last decade built up a powerful network of conservative youth.
He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people.
One of law enforcement's biggest concerns now is the possibility that someone might seek revenge or payback for Kirk's death, even though at the moment we don't know the motive. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Orem, Utah.
The British ambassador in Washington has been fired now that details about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein are public. Peter Mendelsohn sent an email to Epstein saying he thinks the world of him. That email was sent in 2008, just as Epstein began serving his sentence for soliciting prostitution from a minor. In another letter from 2003, Mendelsohn called Epstein his best pal. The British Foreign Office says it was not aware of the extent of their relationship when Mendelsohn was appointed as ambassador last December. Officials in Seoul say more than 300 South Korean workers have been released from detention in Georgia, and they are expected to arrive home tomorrow. They were arrested during an immigration raid on a Hyundai plant last week. The incident has strained relations between Washington and Seoul, and South Korea's president is warning this incident will undermine future investment in the U.S. Michelle Song reports.
A video released by ICE showing a majority of South Korean workers shackled in front of a Hyundai EV battery plant in Georgia sent shockwaves across Korea. ICE says it arrested illegal aliens, but Charles Cook, a lawyer representing two of the detainees, says his clients were wrongfully arrested.
But these two individuals were in the United States from Korea under what's called a visa waiver, which is basically a visitor visa for business.
Cook's clients described the horrible conditions of the detention center.
These are dormitory-style beds for relatively low-level federal detainees, and they still don't get good food. Sanitation is out in the open.
The plant is one of the largest economic development projects for the state, and South Korea's president committed a $350 billion investment in the U.S. if the White House were to lower tariffs on its exports. Professor Robert Suro teaches public policy and journalism at the University of Southern California.
The president has made such a big deal of demanding and blackmailing countries into investing in manufacturing in the U.S., but it's not doing the essential regulatory work of facilitating skilled workers from those companies to come and set up plants.
President Donald Trump said on Sunday his relationship with the longtime ally remains stable, but he called on foreign companies to follow immigration laws and hire American workers. Michelle Song, CBC News, Toronto.
The United States is marking the 24th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. The Bell of Hope rang in New York at 8:46 local time. That is the moment the first of two planes hit the World Trade Center in 2001. Nearly 3,000 people were killed in the attacks in New York and the Pentagon and the crash of United Airlines Flight 93 in Pennsylvania. 24 Canadians were among the dead. Some people living near St. John's, Newfoundland have unsafe water flowing through their taps. They only found out when a local chemistry professor started asking questions. CBC's Jayla Bernstein investigated and discovered contamination may be spreading beyond what the government has mapped.
Memorial University chemistry professor Carl Jobst visits a neighborhood in Tor Bay. This is where he found forever chemical contamination in people's water. Some of those toxins, also called PFAS, have been linked to serious illnesses, including cancer.
This is essentially industrial wastewater that's being discharged from the airport.
The airport is the site of an old firefighting training area that Transport Canada is responsible for. It confirmed last year that contamination had spread to wells in one nearby subdivision. But Jobst found PFAS in a completely different area downstream. Worried the chemicals could be spreading to wells, he started door knocking.
Not really what I want to be putting in a baby's body.
Haley Hussey-Smart is a new mom, and according to Jobst's analysis, the levels in her water were within Canadian guidelines, but wouldn't pass in the U.S.
Nobody, government-wise, has really been doing anything.
Jobst found that half of the homes he tested in the area had contaminated water. 4 were unsafe by Canadian standards, and 4 were above American limits. CBC Investigates had independent testing done at some of those same sites, and the results were in line with Jobst's findings. Transport Canada was alerted in May, but residents CBC spoke with said the department hasn't intervened. It says it takes its responsibilities with respect to PFAS seriously, and it won't comment further because of a proposed class action lawsuit. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Torbay, Newfoundland.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. If you like the World Report podcast, please follow us, tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to your morning show on CBC. This is Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at the show. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube's where you've joined us. We've had rain across parts of the southern Manitoba already and some storm conditions on the way. Stay tuned. We'll have the forecast in a moment. Also, school day 2 in case you're following along. And you might not have power this morning. Corey's going to update us a little bit on what's been happening around one part of Winnipeg. This half hour on the show, we have a feature interview looking at home builders in Manitoba. Some are saying they're tired of having their construction materials stolen. We're going to find out what some builders have to say about why this is happening, what's being stolen, but also how the increase in theft is impacting home prices. So stay tuned. That is coming up in an interview this half hour. In a moment, headlines with Heather Wells. And here is Heather now. What do you know, Heather?
Good morning. Well, prohibiting encampments in certain areas will not address the root causes of homelessness. That is according to the executive director at Main Street Project, Jamil Mahmood. Winnipeg City Council's Community Services Committee, as we've been telling you, approved a motion earlier this week. It would forbid encampments near certain areas like playgrounds, bus shelters, and schools. Mahmood says more housing is what's needed to reduce the number of encampments. And bans on encampments in other cities have faced constitutional challenges. One legal expert who spoke to CBC says Winnipeg's proposed bylaw would probably stand up in court. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
And now to talk about the rain and the forecast overall, here's Abby Adiemi.
Good morning. Once again, still tracking the thunderstorm for the Westman region, Brandon and surrounding areas. We have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for that region with possibility of strong gusts, a large hail and heavy rain. Brandon already saw the first wave of the heavy rain and more to come. We're also spotting rain already getting to the Dauphin area, and that is coming towards Winnipeg. Currently 15 degrees. As the day goes on, this rain cloud will build a good chance of showers like around between 10 and midday. That shower should hit Winnipeg along with a risk of thunderstorms. It will feel warm after that period. Temperatures will climb to 24. It gets breezy at some point, and this cloudy condition will stay with us into the evening and overnight period. Still more chance of showers and thunderstorm. Similar conditions we're seeing across the southern parts of the province. Temperatures hovering between 14 and 16. Rain in the forecast. Up north, it's more like mild and dry. A mix of sun and clouds up the path, Flin Flon, Thompson, Churchill. We saw light rain in Thompson earlier, and also Churchill is going to be staying partly cloudy with a chance of rain in the forecast. But for Winnipeg right now, we're looking at 15 degrees and it's cloudy outside.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, Corey Funk is in now with a bit more information on something that was developing just before 8. Corey.
Yeah, we got a couple calls on the commuter line about St. Anne's Road. So what we've heard is that police have blocked off St. Anne's Road entirely. Michael said that it seems to be from about Poplarwood to Portland. But he says he doesn't know exactly what's going on. We don't know exactly why, but he saw some hydro crews on site doing some repairs. So not sure what causes issues around there. Hydro is reporting power outages actually in the neighborhoods along St. Anne's Road between Fermor and Abenoji-Mikana. I did some math because it's kind of a scatter shot of a bunch of different outages, but about 1,500 customers or so seem to be impacted. Hydro says it's hoping to have power back in those neighborhoods between 9 and 11 a.m. this morning. I also got a call from someone who works with the Louis Riel School Division. He says this is impacting buses. So if you are in a school around that area, students aren't coming very late. If you're a parent, just know that students are probably going to be arriving a little bit later today because of that closure on St. Anne's Road. Another traffic thing to give you an update for Broadway and Edmonton. Has been a multi-vehicle collision in the intersection, and emergency vehicles are blocking the westbound, median, and middle lanes on Broadway at Edmonton. in approaching that intersection there. So heads up there. If you have any updates on that or anything else you're seeing out there, would love to get some more updates throughout the morning. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Time right now is 8:15, and as I alluded to, a Winnipeg home builder recently posted a sign at one of their build sites with surveillance photos of an alleged thief. Daytona Homes says they're tired of people stealing materials from their construction sites. The Manitoba Home Builders Association says it's a growing problem all across the province, and it could, as I alluded to, impact home buyers as well. So Lanny McInnes is with us, President and CEO of the Manitoba Home Builders Association. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So Daytona Homes, as I mentioned, posted this sign at the build site, the surveillance photos of an alleged thief. What do you make of builders using signs like that as a deterrent?
Well, builders right now are taking multiple steps to try to prevent or mitigate the amount of construction theft that's happening on our member sites. And so whether it's surveillance cameras, whether it's even bars on basement windows, lighting being in certain areas, and developers are in new communities are taking steps on a community level, including security surveillance to help address this, because it is an ongoing and, in this case, an increasing problem that our industry is facing.
Ongoing and increasing since when? Can you give us a sense of how this has been building?
Well, really since the pandemic. And what we've seen, Marcy, is construction theft has always been part of life for our industry. And it's moved from, in some cases, organized, where they're taking large amounts of material, and the crime of convenience, where something's left unattended and somebody just happens to be walking by and takes it off a site. Now we're seeing more of what could be described as crimes of desperation, which is we're seeing people come in, break into nearly completed, or in some cases even completed, new homes, causing thousands of dollars worth of damage, and really only taking $40, $50 worth of pipe or wire out of basements or right out of the walls, and taking it and selling it to scrap metal dealers. And really, the cost that's causing our members to incur, and ultimately the homeowner who's purchasing the home, is something that we're seeing increasingly, and something that's very concerning to us.
So that gets passed on, the cost of theft, to homeowners?
It does, and in some cases it's a minimal amount of material that's leaving, but the people who are taking it are causing thousands of dollars worth of damage. And when you when you see that in almost every community that we're building in, those numbers add up significantly, and it's a cost that ultimately gets folded into the price of a home, and it is impacting affordability. And right now, all levels of government and our industry is focused on building houses as affordably as we can. And as quickly as we can, and these cause added costs, added delays, and both of those impact affordability.
Who has property rights? I guess the person whose property it is, but I'm wondering about insurance for these losses before the home is built. Is that something that the builders are incurring or looking for?
Yes.
Or is it
it'd be under, yes, it impacts the builders. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
In terms of, you were talking about sort of how it's been changing and the changes in what people are taking, from, you said, sort of bigger, more organized things to more, one-off things, people sort of accessing, coming in and stealing. What types of items, if you could elaborate on, what's being stolen?
We're hearing the whole range of materials. We've had flooring disappear from homes. We've had installed carpet cut out and rolled up and taken out of almost completed homes. And very commonly, we're hearing now of copper wire and copper pipes being ripped out of walls, doors or windows being broken into. And these are homes that have security cameras in them, have in some cases are energized and have power. And so there's not just the cost implications, but there's safety implications that we're seriously concerned about as well. And these are not victimless crimes either, because they do impact the people who are on those sites every day, and ultimately the homeowner who's taking ownership of the house does feel the impact of this. And so we just want to raise a level of awareness around this issue. It seems to be increasing, and our hope is that we'll have both levels, both the city of Winnipeg and the municipal level and the provincial level of government, take a good look at not just the situation and how to resolve it, but also steps that we can collectively take to help prevent it in the first place.
Does Daytona posting this sign at one of the build sites, does that speak to you about the level of, what does that say to you about the level of frustration that you've been alluding to here?
Well, we've been hearing that level of frustration for the past number of years from our members, and our builders work together to help try to prevent this, and in some cases where they can, and they have captured images that they share them so that that same person doesn't hit other sites. And our developers also work with our builders, and they work together to help take steps to prevent this. Information sharing is one of those steps, and in this case, that's the step that this individual builder took.
What would you like to see done about it in terms of cracking down on the thefts?
Well, we're doing what we can to help prevent this situation, but it's certainly the desperation that we're seeing as part of this speaks to a larger problem, and so we're a partner with provincial and municipal governments on this to help try and address it, but also to try to prevent it in the first place. And it seems to be a symptom of a larger problem that we know is on levels of government's radar for sure.
What do you mean by symptoms of a larger problem?
Well, the folks who are coming in and doing this are not, they're not selling it to go into other homes. They're selling it for a small amount of cash, and what's driving that can be variable depending on what who's doing it and what the situation is. But it speaks to there's some steps that the provincial government especially could take to help address this, and it may be looking at scrap metal and ways that can make it less of a target as it is right now. Might be an immediate step that can be taken to help address this, and that's not unique to our industry. We're hearing that right across the board. So
is that like a regulation or some kind of legislation potentially to stop specifically around metals, you said?
Yeah, to make it a less attractive target for criminals to break in and steal.
How do you do that? Would the legislation then look around the flipping of the materials, or how would it prevent it?
Yeah, I think that's been the focus of a number of groups, not just ours, in terms of making it less attractive and harder to obtain cash in exchange for it. So that is one item that we will be bringing forward this fall in our discussions with the province.
What are builders hearing from police?
Our builders are in regular contact with the police, and we encourage builders to report any crime that they're seeing on their sites. And it's a situation where the police are doing the best they can, but their resources are stressed. And in some cases where we are, because of the surveillance and the security initiatives that our industry have taken, our members have taken, they are able to provide information to the police that does lead to some of these folks being caught.
If a builder's insured for a lost material that might get stolen from a site, why is the cost passed on to the homeowner, or is the insurance not enough to cover all the losses?
Well, in some cases, it makes better sense not to pay the deductible, and plus these things, because of it's the common nature of this now that we're running into, the insurance premiums will be significantly impacted. So it's a financial decision that a builder has to make in terms of the level of claim, but it's a cost. And the added part of that too, Marcy, is that it also causes delays, because that material has to be replaced, has to be reinstalled in some cases, and that takes time, and that delays construction, and that adds to the cost.
And just last, Lanny, I mentioned in the introduction this is happening all over the province. Is that accurate?
Yes, every community that our membership is active in, we're hearing it's not immune, and it's not located in one or two certain communities. It's really something that we're seeing in every community, and our members have a vested interest in building safe communities that are appealing for people to make their home and their lives in, and so this is concerning for a host of levels, not just on the cost side.
Appreciate your time today on CBC. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's Lanny McInnes, President and CEO of the Manitoba Home Builders Association. Associate producer Marshall Hodgins reached out to Winnipeg Police to see if they're getting more calls about thefts on construction sites. At airtime, we've not yet heard back. And Daytona Homes declined an interview.
The night lights up with Arch in the Exchange, and After Dark will be there. Winnipeg, this is Odario Williams, and I will be spinning tunes for a special recording of After Dark, just outside of Art Space for Nuit Blanche, September 27th. Art, music, dance, all night. Nuit Blanche, proudly sponsored by CBC. Just visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
Well, maybe he's going to be spinning this tune. This is Charlotte Cardin. She's back with a new single. The Montreal-born, Paris-based musician finds a familiar groove with this next one. This is Too Bad for Her, Tant pis pour elle.
Tant pis pour elle, quelle belle nouvelle, quelle belle nouvelle, que celle que tu aimes n'était qu'une étincelle, qu'elle brûle avec elle, retour à l'essentiel, moi le bleu de tes yeux et toi le dieu de mon ciel, quelle belle nouvelle, quelle belle nouvelle, que celle que tu aimes n'était qu'une étincelle, qu'elle brûle avec elle, retour à l'essentiel, moi le bleu de tes yeux et toi le dieu de mon ciel. Fini ce bordel, hésitation à terme, c'est moi que tu aimes, t'as donc plus besoin d'elle, c'est la fin des querelles, des pluies torrentielles, elle pleuvait sur toi, moi je te donne des ailes, tu me donnes des ailes, viens on s'échappe du système, que je le vide de tes veines, jusqu'à ce que plus rien te la rappelle, regarde mes lèvres, qui invitent les tiennes, c'est notre lune de miel, et tant pis pour elle. Quelle belle nouvelle, quelle belle nouvelle, que celle que tu aimes n'était qu'une étincelle, qu'elle brûle avec elle, retour à l'essentiel, moi le bleu de tes yeux et toi le dieu de mon ciel. Par un dieu dans mon ciel, par un dieu dans mon ciel.
New tune from Charlotte Cardin there, and Tant pis pour elle, too bad for her. Well, not too bad for Marjorie Dalhouse. We have enough time in the show to ask her about what's coming up on Radio Noon on the Call, and what do you got?
Well, Marcy, we're going to catch up with a Winnipeg family who we first talked to over 2 years ago, who gave up everything here to set sail around the world. It was a dream of theirs, and now we're going to catch up with them. They're all the way in French Polynesia.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 years into their journey. So the question that we're going to ask you on Radio Noon today, what's on your bucket list? What's something that you've really, really wanted to do? Maybe there's somewhere in the world that you've always wanted to visit. Call in, share your story, and we'll also hear Amanda Ward's story coming up as well, too, on Radio Noon.
All right, thanks a lot, Marge.
Thanks, Marcy.
That is the call-in portion of Radio Noon between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. You're on CBC this morning, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining us. We understand about 1,500 customers are impacted by a hydro outage. Hydro says they're hoping to have power on between 9 and 11. This is in the neighborhoods along St. Anne's Road between Fermor and Abinogi-Meekinaw. So we're still keeping an eye on that one. It did impact traffic. So police blocked off St. Anne's Road in both ways, Poplarwood to Portland. Apologies. We believe that's what's impacting traffic in that area. But those areas, of course, all adjacent. So those things are developing in traffic as we head into your news at 8:30.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30, waiting for the rain. There's a good chance we'll see it later this morning and this afternoon. Also a risk of thunderstorms today. The wind is starting to pick up and it will get stronger. Gusts later up to 50 kilometers an hour, a high today of 24. The head of Winnipeg's Main Street project says a move to prohibit encampments in some areas doesn't get at the root cause of homelessness. City Council's Community Services Committee unanimously approved a motion earlier this week. It would forbid homeless camps around certain areas, like daycares, playgrounds, and bus shelters. Jamil Mahmoud says what's needed is more housing.
And if we don't have a place for people to go, we can't solve homelessness. And so I like to tell people, if you're frustrated and you're angry, you need to direct that anger at the people that make decisions in terms of where housing funding goes, how to support more housing development, and getting the right people the resources they need to house people directly.
Mahmoud says Main Street Project, which works with people living in encampments, was not consulted on the motion. He says they would like to speak with councillors and the city to discuss community-based solutions that work for everyone. Well, questions have been swirling about the legality of the proposed encampment restrictions. Eric Adams at the University of Alberta suspects Winnipeg's proposed rules would stand up to a charter challenge because they haven't been trying to ban all homeless encampments, which could be seen as exposing people to the risk of bodily harm.
The city of Winnipeg will say, well, no, we haven't banned people from giving themselves protection, but just in places where those shelters have the kinds of adverse consequences for the community that enables us to limit the rights of people to erect those shelters.
Adams says the issue presents a difficult balancing act for lawmakers to protect the safety and security of the public while respecting the dignity and needs of some of society's most vulnerable. An investigation into this spring's wildfires near Lynn Lake alleges the fire started at a nearby mining site. That's according to search warrant documents obtained by CBC News. The documents say the fire started in May after a permitted burn pile at the Alamos Gold site reignited. Provincial investigators say it happened because no water was used to make sure it was fully out. The search warrant is seeking more evidence to see if Alamos Gold broke Manitoba's Wildfires Act. Lynn Lake Mayor Brandon Dolowich says this is hard news to hear.
It's a tough pill to swallow, knowing that it's not something that just spontaneously happened. It was something that you would think we should have had control over.
Alamos Gold says all of its permitted fires followed provincial laws. A spokesperson for the province says the investigation is ongoing. Mark Carney calls them nation-building projects. They are energy and infrastructure initiatives the Prime Minister and provinces all say will help Canada move away from its economic reliance on the United States. CBC News has obtained a list of the first 5 projects the government is rolling out today. Not included are upgrades to the Port of Churchill. That project is on a list up for consideration for the second round. Well, prayers and candlelight vigils were held in Utah and across the United States last night.
If you are turned away illegally at this
And here we go to one of the vigils from last night. Mourners paying tribute to Charlie Kirk. The conservative American commentator was shot yesterday while speaking at a university campus. The shooting happened while Kirk was taking questions from an audience member about mass shootings and gun violence in the U.S. He was later pronounced dead in hospital. Investigators questioned a person of interest afterwards. They now say the gunman is still at large. And just moments ago, the FBI held an update saying the killer of Charlie Kirk appears to be of college age and blended in with the college crowd there at that college in Utah. As well, the FBI says a high-powered bolt-action rifle has been recovered from the area where the suspected shooter fled. So we'll have the latest on that story as it continues to develop throughout the day today. A new report suggests Canada's weather service could shine brighter with a coordinated flash flood warning system and deeper European partnerships. The independent assessment prepared for Environment and Climate Change Canada says significant cuts to the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration threaten wide range of weather and water monitoring in Canada, all the way from the Arctic to the Great Lakes. The Council of Canadian Academies also finds some gaps in Canada's own observation network, especially in the north, where weather stations can be hundreds of kilometers apart and miss out on key weather variables. You can find more news and weather. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
All right, Corey.
St. Anne's Road between Poplar Road, Portland, blocked off entirely right now. We don't know exactly why, but we know hydro crews are on scene doing some repairs. There's actually power outages along that area, about 1,500 customers. Hydro expects, according to their website, for those to be fixed between 9 and 11 a.m. this morning.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And Abby, last word on the weather?
Just a heads up, thunderstorms possible today in the southern parts of the province, and the north is going to stay dry. We're going to see highs in the range of 24 to 26 across board.
All right, and as we leave, we got rain in Brandon, and we also have some thunderstorm with light rain showers now developing in Portage, and a light rain happening up north in Thompson, and that should taper off the rest of the day. Big thanks to the people that worked on our program specifically this morning. So the associate producers, Chidi Akuma, Marshall Hodgins, Jenna Badosso, our community reporter, Shanley Vidal, our on-air team, Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, and Brad Lillies. In our news department, Alana Cole, Megan Ketchison, and Heather Wells this morning. Thanks, everybody, for your work. In our unit, the show producer overall is Nellie Gonzalez, and the senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba is Leif Larson. Thank you, too, as well. Take care, be well, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Information Radio.